What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 6 Co-Chapter 101. Luo and Beppo's enlightenment. Luo Te knew that it was not easy for Luo to say this. He walked to Luo and patted his shoulder. Since it has happened, our mission is to become stronger and protect everything we want to protect. Luo shook his head. I know, Captain Luo Te. Luo Te also knew the friendship between the four of them who grew up together, and it was impossible for Luo to get over it all at once. He reached out and took out 250 senzu beans from the system space, and also took out the manual made of his understanding of Haki and handed it to Luo. Captain Luo Te, what is this? This is senzu beans, which can instantly restore physical strength and injuries. The injuries and physical strength consumed after daily training can be restored. Hearing Luo Te's explanation, Luo was horrified. Since Captain Luo Te had such a magic medicine, why did he invite himself to be the ship's doctor? Luo Te naturally saw Luo's doubts. This senzu bean is not infinite, it would be a waste to use it as a doctor. Luo hesitated and did not dare to take it. Captain Luo Te, it's just, your senzu bean is so precious, why do you give it to me? Knowing that senzu bean is not infinite, and has such a magical effect, there is no need to waste it on yourself. Luo Te leaned on the side of the ship and looked into the distance. What I want to do requires the efforts of all of us. It won't work if anyone is missing. If I only rely on senzu bean as medicine, it would be a waste, and senzu bean is not as important as you. Luo was a little shy when he heard this, and asked curiously, Captain Luo Te, is what you want to do difficult? In his impression, Luo Te is the strongest person he has ever seen, no one else, at least more than one dimension stronger than Doflamingo. With such strength, there are things that make him feel difficult. He can't imagine it. Luo Te nodded, yes, even Roger has not completed this thing. Luo was shocked when he heard this. He had never heard of Roger not accomplishing anything. Roger conquered the Grand Line and won the title of Pirate King. How difficult it would be to accomplish something that even such a person could not accomplish. Luo Te said, this world is too distorted, and it has existed for more than 800 years. It's time to change the dynasty. What do you mean, Captain Luo Te? Luo Te turned his head and looked at Luo, nodded, yes, people in this world live too hard. Every day when you go out, you must be vigilant against the villains who bully the market. When you go out to sea, you will encounter pirates and robbers. Even when you return home, you must be careful of violence from your family. He looked into the distance. In this world, the lives of the lower class people are like grass, and can be toyed with by the upper class at will. In this world where the strong prey on the weak can't even choose their own death. It's really sad. Luo had a deep understanding of what Luo Te said. He came from the bottom. Luo Te continued to say, so this world is distorted, and I want to change it. Luo tilted his head and looked at the man who was younger than him, and after hearing these heroic words, he decided to help Luo Te realize this dream even if he tried his best. Captain Luo Te, what is this? Luo Te did not look back. His eyes met at the place where the water and the sky met. He knew that Luo was asking about the Haki manual. This is the training manual for Haki. Haki is. After listening, Luo opened the manual and found that it was recorded in great detail. Thinking of what Luo Te had just told him about Haki's strong Yamato effect, he knew that if he mastered such an ability, Shiki and Pekin would not be in trouble. But the dead will not come back, and he now has a group of companions. He must become strong to protect his companions, and he does not want to experience the pain of losing his companions again. Seeing Luo regain his confidence, Luo Te was very relieved. He said to Luo, every ship of our pirate group has a training room and a gravity room. You can use them at will, and you can ask me to adjust the gravity. Quote. After hearing this, Luo walked towards the cabin. Luo Te turned around and looked at Bebo, who was looking forward to it. He knew that Bebo also wanted to become stronger and wanted to protect his partner. He thought about it in his mind, and didn't know how to help Bebo improve his strength. After a while, he patted his forehead. He remembered that he had got a night shining pearl from the island when he was dealing with it. That night shining pearl was still in the shape of the moon. He took out the night shining pearl from the system space. Suddenly, it was as if a moon appeared on the deck, illuminating the surrounding sea surface. Luo Te squinted and saw a pair of scarlet eyes staring at the night shining pearl in his hand. He knew that it should be Bebo's eyes. He quickly put away the night shining pearl. As the dazzling light faded, Bebo's hair that had exploded all over his body slowly returned to its original state, and his eyes became clear again. Captain Luo Te, what is this? Bebo just felt that an extremely powerful force suddenly appeared in his body, but he couldn't control it at all. If it lasted a little longer, he might go berserk. As Luo Te put away the night pearl, the bloodthirsty feeling disappeared. It naturally guessed that what he had just done was related to the night pearl in Luo Te's hand. Luo Te explained to him, that is the power hidden in your fur tribe, but at present, you can't fully master it. Hearing that this is the power of the fur tribe, Bebo's whole bear seemed extremely excited. Captain Luo Te, how can I master it? It urgently needs to master this power, it doesn't want to be called a pet. This is your own power. To fully master it depends on your own physical fitness. Hurry up and practice, so that your physical fitness can support this power and you can master it.
Hearing this, Babo nodded his bare head. Then I will practice now.
Since he saw the hope of becoming stronger, he didn't want to delay for a moment.
Luo Te wrapped up the night pearl and handed it to its claws. Before you can fully master that power, don't easily take this pearl out in front of you.
Although Babo is a bear, his IQ is not low, so he naturally knows the reason. If I take it out casually, it may cause me to run away and cause unnecessary losses.
He said hello to Luo Te and went into the training room. His eyes turned from Beppo's chest and back to the deck. Alas, I am alone again. The sunset had disappeared at this time. The sky was full of sunset clouds just now, but now it was already dotted with stars.
He sat on the deck, leaning against the mast with his hands on his head. I wonder what Hancock and the others are doing. As the super hard net was activated, he saw that Hancock and the others had separated and returned to their respective rooms.
He raised an arc at the corner of his mouth, and then disappeared on the deck. Dong dong dong. Who is it? Open the door, it's me. Hearing Luo Te's voice outside the door, Robin gently opened the door. Luo Te, what are you doing here? Luo Te did not answer, but stretched out his hand to hug Robin's waist. Is it your idea not to let me go to the island today?
Robin wanted to push away Luo Te's restless hand. What are you doing? Linger's room is next to it.
It's okay. I have covered this room with an electromagnetic barrier, and others can't see or hear it. Tell me if it was your idea. Robin glanced at Luo Te. It's because you are too fickle. Who knows if you will find another one if you go to the island. Luo Te pulled hard, and Robin fell into Luo Te's arms. Oh, you dare to do this to your husband. I think you deserve to be punished by the family law.
Chapter 102, Deprived of the Title.
As the cloud at the bottom of Nine Snake Island became thicker and thicker, the entire island was steadily lifted up. We really flew up. So magical. As Nine Snake Island took off, many people on the island were amazed. They had never heard of any other means in the world to lift a huge island into the sky. Looking at the increasingly distant sea level and the gradually approaching blue sky and white clouds, they were not afraid at all. This morning, their Emperor Hancock gave them a speech for the first time. You should know that this is also the only speech Hancock has given since he succeeded as emperor. Even though the content of the speech was a bit dry, they also understood the reason for the relocation of Nine Snake Island, and the masses also believed in Hancock unconditionally. And unlike other islands, their entire island is full of bloody warriors. Since they understand the despicableness of the world government, they will naturally not let their king suffer any more grievances. Hancock breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that Nine Snake Island had been steadily lifted up.
Nami-chan, thank you for your hard work. Nami raised her fist. Why should we be polite to each other? This is just a piece of cake. After such a long time of development, Nami's yin fruit no longer feels weak at the beginning. As the island cloud rises, Nine Snake Island is slowly spliced next to an uninhabited island of Sky Island. Is this Sky Island? Is this 10,000 meters high? I didn't expect there would be such a beautiful island at 10,000 meters. Will there be men on it? Men. I really want to see what men look like. As soon as Nine Snake Island was settled, the citizens on it began to marvel at the scenery in front of them. Originally thought that Sky Island would be a barren land, but now it seems to be much better than they imagined, even far beyond their expectations. And Hancock breathed a sigh of relief when he saw the residents of Nine Snake Island behave like this. What? Nine Snake Island is gone. World government. A bald old man holding a den mushi with a shocked look on his face, and there were 4 other old guys sitting around him. It was the 5 elders. Yes. The bald old man was naturally Venus, god of finance. Isambaren v Nasuchiro. He still didn't believe it. Are you sure you didn't find the wrong place? I am responsible for monitoring the Nine Snakes Island. I will definitely not make a mistake. And I took a photo and I will send it to you now. After saying that, he hung up the den mushi. Squeak. Squeak, squeak. Accompanied by the sound of the fax, a photo came out of the fax machine. Venus reached out and took out the photo and placed it on the table. The other 4 people also focused their attention on the photo. There were 5 people in the photo, 4 women and 1 man. Saturn's Saint Jagalusha Satan asked, who is this? Mercury's god of law Topman Vochuli stroked his beard and explained, this is Luo Te, who was in the limelight recently, and his female crew members. Venus pointed to a woman in the photo, and this one? Hancock. What is she doing with Luo Te? Saturn still knew Hancock. Look, Hancock is holding Luo Te's arm, and they look like a couple. Jupiter's god of environment Marcus Moshe said at the side, isn't it obvious? These 4 women should be Luo Te's women. After that, he sighed, being young is good. These 4 women are all celestial. I wonder if Luo Te's waist is okay. Dong dong dong. Mars knocked on the table and reminded. Let's discuss why Hancock is hanging out with Luo Te. Venus is indeed a hot-tempered old man. He twisted his sword in his hand and said, no matter what the reason is, Hancock, as one of the 7 warlords of the sea, should not be with other pirates. Not to mention the big criminal Luo Te. After a pause,
He continued. I propose to deprive Boa Hancock of the title of 7 Warlords of the Sea and restore the bounty on him.
Saturn. Agree. Mars. Second. Mercury. Second.
Jupiter. Second. For a 7 Warlord of the Sea who is close to pirates, the 5 of them also unanimously passed the resolution to deprive Hancock of the title of 7 Warlords of the Sea. Mercury said, let Sengoku do this. It's also a chance for him to make amends. Jupiter. Also, before the weapon is completed, the 7 Warlords of the Sea still need to exist. Let him recruit new 7 Warlords of the Sea.
Saturn. Will Luo Te have anything to do with the disappearance of 9 Snake Island this time? Jupiter looked at the photo carefully. Doesn't Luo Te like beautiful women? Let the girl CP0 try to get close to him. Mercury. Second. Mars. Agree. Venus. Agree. Naval Headquarters Marineford. Okay, I get it. After hanging up the phone, Sengoku couldn't help but hold his forehead, feeling a little depressed, because he had just been scolded by the 5 elders. At the same time, he gave Luo Te a full range of greetings in his heart. Ha 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 ha. It's not easy to be a marshal. If it were me, I might have scolded those 5 old men a long time ago. Witnessing the process of Sengoku being scolded, Garp slapped his thigh and laughed at Sengoku. Shut up. Garp. Garp wiped the spit from his face. What on earth does Luo Te want to do? He has been on the headlines recently. I wonder if the island crash last time has anything to do with him. Hearing Garp's words, Sengoku's eyes lit up. Island crash? Could it be Sky Island? He touched his chin and nodded after a long time. Garp, it seems that the disappearance of 9 Snake Island this time should be related to Luo Te. Garp also put away his smile at this time, and a rare worry appeared on his face. Recently, Luo Te has been making trouble frequently. 2 Shichibukai were poached by him. It seems that he is setting a big plan. Sengoku frowned when he heard this. Alas, only he knows it. Big news, big news. After Crocodile was stripped of the 7 Warlords of the Sea last time, Boa Hancock was also stripped of the title of Shichibukai. What? Boa Hancock? Is it the Empress Hancock who is known as the most beautiful woman? This Luo Te, I don't care if he is one of the 5 emperors. I will fight him to the death, my goddess. Impossible. I heard that any man who approaches Hancock will turn into stone. Besides being handsome, what else does this Luo Te have? Damn it. What? Hancock joined the Luo Te pirates. Master Luo Te, is your pirate group still short of people? I can clean the toilet, as long as I can see Master Hancock. For a while, the news that Boa Hancock was deprived of the 7 Warlords of the Sea and joined the Luo Te pirates caused a storm on the sea. Of course, most people speculated that Luo Te threatened the Empress Hancock. New World Skybreaker. Frankie looked at the photo on the newspaper. Our captain has a good eye. Super. Crocodile said at this time. It seems that Luo Te should come to New World soon. Crow pushed his glasses, raised his head and looked towards the bow. Here it comes. The ship of the Big Mom Pirates. Chapter 103. Kuro and his crew encounter the Big Mom Pirates. Zoro pushed away the handguard of Wado Ikimonji with his left hand, and the corner of his mouth opened into an arc. 4 Emperor's Pirates. I hope you won't let me down. Crocodile stood up and twisted his neck to make a crackling sound. Sha Luo Te Linlin, it's been a long time since we last met. I wonder if that old woman is dying. Yeah ha 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 ha. Let the name of Thunder God ring in the new world. Enel held the golden cane with a proud face. Everyone was very excited. After all, it was rare to meet the 4 Emperor's pirates as soon as they entered the new world. And they were not comparable to ordinary pirates. If ordinary pirates knew that the 4 Emperors were looking for trouble with them, they might run faster than rabbits. Not to mention that they were Luo Te's group, everyone was a top tsunere. There was no such thing as retreating. Crocodile stood at the bow of the ship with a very calm expression. As the pirate ship with a strange face approached, a voice came from it. Are you Luo Te's gang? Crow and the others did not answer immediately. The strange pirate ship gradually approached, and waves of chocolate aroma came from it. It smells so good. Are they having a chocolate party? I wonder if there is cola. Frankie wiped his nose, looking excited. The ship finally stopped 50 meters away from the skybreaker, and a slender middle-aged man stood on the bow. He had long dark blue hair with light blue moderate dots. He wore a top hat and held a candy cane in his hand. The most eye-catching thing was that the man had a long nose and a tongue that was as long as his chest. Naturally, it was Sha Luo Te Linlin's eldest son, Sha Luo Te Parasparrow. Crow looked up and down at the man in front of him, and was secretly a little shocked. He was not shocked by how strong Parasparrow was, nor was he shocked by how strange Parasparrow looked. But he felt that Big Mom still valued them very much. After all, it was rare for him to send someone of his eldest son's level as a diplomat for the first time. Are you Parasparrow? Parasparrow licked his tongue. Perori, turns out to be the number 2 of Luo Te's group, Mr. Crow. I wonder if your Captain Luo Te is here? Crow shook his head and said, I'm sorry, our captain is not on the ship now, just tell me if you have anything to say. Parasparrow licked his tongue and was silent. He came to Luo Te's group to invite them to the tea party that was about to be held on Big Mom's order.
But Luo Te himself was not there. Crow naturally saw what Paramecia was thinking about, but he didn't interrupt. He knew that Luo Te would go to war with Big Mom's pirate group, but he didn't know when it would happen. If Luo Te's plan was disrupted because of a conflict with Paramecia now, it would be more trouble than gain. Crow was obviously still doing things with a cautious character.
However, Enel couldn't stand it any longer. You long tongue, if you have anything to say, just say it to us. Luo Te will definitely listen to me.
As soon as he said this, a burst of sneers came from the opposite ship. Pucci, are you qualified to make decisions for Luo Te? Hearing this, Enel couldn't stand it anymore, and turned into lightning and appeared next to a small minion on the opposite side. 10 million volts, discharge. Then he turned into lightning and returned to the sky breaker. The little guy who had just sneered was charred all over and fell straight on the deck. The smell of barbecue spread throughout the ship. Everything happened in a flash. Nani. Paramecia was so shocked that he bit his tongue hard. Seeing Enel's expression was a little angry. Thor. Do you want to go to war with the Big Mom pirates? Enel wanted to speak harshly, but was blocked by Clo's hand.
Paramecia, right. Just tell us what you want to do with us, I can make the decision.
Paramecia took a deep look at Enel, and then turned his eyes to Clo.
He knew that Clo should be the second person in Luo Te's group, so even if Luo Te was not there, it would have the same effect if he told Clo. He gently waved the candy cane in his hand, and an arm made of candy quickly grew in front of Clo. Crow reached out and took the card from the top. What is this?
Paramecia replied, this is an invitation to the tea party. Mom hopes Luo Te will come to this tea party. Tea party.
Crow was confused. He didn't expect to meet the four emperors so soon and didn't have time to learn about the tea party. Paramecia also expected that they didn't know, so he explained to Crow and others. The tea party is a banquet. Mom will invite many famous pirates or people from underground organizations to participate. After listening to Paramecia's explanation, Crow also understood the purpose of Big Mom's tea party. Big Mom's tea party is not only a symbol of her personal power, but also an important gathering within her pirate group, which can increase team cohesion. Big Mom will invite her pirate group members and other influential people to participate, celebrate and enjoy this grand banquet together. The purpose is also to deter the scoundrels, win over those organizations, and then expand Big Mom's influence. At the same time, during the tea party, she will discuss major events in the pirate world with the participants. The reason for inviting Luo Te to the tea party this time may be that they saw Luo Te's strength and wanted to pull Luo Te and his gang into the Big Mom pirates. Kuro frowned. He guessed that inviting them to attend might be a hangmen banquet. However, Luo Te would definitely go given his character, so he did not agree on behalf of Luo Te, but said, this is too important, I can't decide. You think our Big Mom pirates are easy to fool, right? Since you can't make a decision for Luo Te, I'll do it for him. He must be present at the tea party on the day. Hearing this voice, Kuro frowned and looked at the source of the voice. It turned out to be a sturdy man over 3 meters tall, with purple hair, a menacing face, and a scar on his right eye. At this time, Kuro could not hold back even if he was well-mannered. Did he really treat them as soft persimmons? Crocodile turned into yellow sand and appeared on the bow of the Skybreaker, with a look of contempt. What the hell are the Big Mom pirates? You should cherish the face I gave you, otherwise you can't go back today. While Crocodile was speaking, Zoro and Frankie also came to the bow. Enel appeared on the opponent's deck again, and a lightning bolt as thick as an arm appeared above Cracker's head. Cracker didn't expect the Luo Te pirates to attack directly, and he rolled to avoid the attack, looking a little embarrassed. Enel raised his head high. Yeah, ha 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 ha. This is the 4 Emperors pirates? It's just so. Paramecia flicked his tongue and looked angry. When had their Big Mom pirates ever been wronged like this? Being bullied onto the ship by others. Crow, are you sure you want to go to war with our Big Mom pirates? Chapter 104. First enemy with Big Mom pirates. Enel looked at Paramecia. If you want to invite us to that tea party, you should show your sincerity. Don't think we are soft persimmons that you can squeeze a will. Although Crocodile and Enel usually don't get along, that's only between each other. In this case, they're still united. Now you are inviting us to participate, not us begging to participate. Please understand the situation. Paramecia looked at Enel on the deck and Crocodile and others on the opposite ship and found that they all had the same expression. Obviously, they didn't take their Big Mom pirates seriously, and they were so angry that they were not good. You know, in New World, not just anyone can get an invitation to their mother's tea party. Those who can get an invitation are all big names with a good reputation. Many people will take it as an honor to get an invitation and brag to their friends around them. In fact, those who can get an invitation to the Big Mom tea party have obtained the friendship of the Big Mom pirates in disguise. Being protected by the Big Mom pirates to a certain extent has numerous benefits. And there are countless people in the New World who want to get the tea party invitation, but the Luo Te pirates are not appreciative, making it seem like the Big Mom pirates are asking for people to attend. Paramecia was so angry that he almost bit off his tongue. How sincere do you want me to be? I am my mother's eldest son, and Cracker is here. I really don't know why Katakuri proposed this. In his impression, the tea party invitations were almost distributed by the younger brothers and sisters, and there had never been an invitation from the eldest son and the General Star. Okay, we got the invitation, your mission is completed, go back. Crocodile crossed his arms in front of his chest, looking arrogant. Parasparrow had never suffered such grievances. They had always bullied others, and now someone was shitting on their heads. He took a deep look at Kuro and the others, and turned around. Let's go, we're going back. Cracker couldn't help it. Why can Parasparrow tolerate this? Parasparrow quickly tied up Cracker with candy, otherwise something would happen. He was angry. He could clearly feel that Kuro and his group were extremely powerful. At the same time, he was secretly shocked. You know, they're the 4 Emperor's pirates, and they have seen all kinds of opponents. It wasn't until he really saw Kuro and his group that he put down his contempt in his heart. Because Kuro and his group are completely in line with the combat power of the 4 Emperor's cadres, or even stronger. So if there is a conflict now, they are likely to be left in the sea. As the eldest brother, he must be responsible for the lives of his younger brothers and sisters. At the moment, the situation is stronger than the person, and he has to evacuate. Let's go, we're here to send an invitation, not to fight. After saying that, he directed his younger brothers and sisters to turn the bow in a direction and leave. Enel pouted in boredom and returned to the skybreaker. Chloe heaved a long sigh of relief. Enel, you are too impulsive. Enel looked indifferent. What's the big deal? Look, didn't they run away in disgrace? Luo Te didn't know what happened to Chloe and others in New World, and was immersed in the gentle countryside almost every day. 9 Snake Island had just moved to Shaw Country, and there were many things to deal with. As the leader of 9 Snake Island, Hancock could not leave Shaw Country directly in a short time. When she thought about separating from Luo Te, she wanted to be with Luo Te every day. Of course, Luo Te also met her requirements and gave her everything. Hancock still underestimated Luo Te's fighting power, so that her legs were weak every day, but she was happy to do so. After staying for only 4 days, Luo Te returned to Qinghai. At this time, the sky-breaking number 1 was sinking to the bottom of the sea. The huge roots of the Yarki mangroves were intertwined on the bottom of the sea, and the sunlight shone through the sea surface to create a bizarre underwater world. Fish swarmed through the sea, and the roots of the trees exhaled bubbles from time to time. Luo Te, is it really okay for us to not coat the ship like this? What if a sea monster attacks us? Ling stood behind Nami, looking around. She had never had this experience before. She had heard that if you want to go to New World from the first half of the Grand Line, you need to coat the ship with a layer of resin film and then pass through the 10,000-meter deep the Fishman Island. She had also heard that only 80% of the ships going to New World encountered sea monsters and sank in this sea. When Luo Te passed by Sabodi Archipelago, he did not stop, but directly controlled the ship to the bottom of the sea. Without a layer of protective film on the outside, she was always scared. She was afraid that she would become a meal for the sea monster. Luo Te smiled faintly. Don't worry, this is better than coating, even the most powerful sea monster can't break it. Really? Really? Ling poked his head out and was a little confused. After listening to Luo Te's words, Robin said, that's not necessarily true. If we encounter a powerful sea monster, we will still sink. So write a suicide note first. Oh, we are all dead at the bottom of the sea, so the suicide note is useless. As she said this, there was no expression on her face. It was as if she was talking about something insignificant. Linger quickly hid her head behind Nami. Robin, really? Really? Nami patted Linger's hand holding her. Linger, Robin, don't you know? Just like that, don't be afraid. Luo Te looked at the 3 women and felt a little funny. Robin still had that black-bellied look, and Linger was still as timid as before. Even though Linger was nearly 2 years older than Nami, their courage was almost not at the same level. Luo Te knew that in the previous life, Nami was one of the 3 timid members of the Straw Hat Pirates in the comics. However, this time on Luo Te's ship, she met Linger, who was even more timid than her, and could only act like a big sister. At this moment, Robin pointed behind Linger. Linger, look behind you, there is a sea monster. Nami said. Robin, don't scare Linger, you see, she is about to cry. Linger also cooperated and squeezed out 2 tears from the corners of her eyes, looking very pitiful. Robin shook his head at this time. This time it's real, if you don't believe it, look behind you. Linger slowly turned his head and saw a pair of scarlet eyes appear behind him. The red eyes were like 2 huge lanterns, getting closer and closer. Ah, Nana. Nami, there is really, a sea monster. Nami also turned her head. Damn, there is really a sea monster. She was so scared that she jumped and hugged Luo Te's arm. Luo Te naturally saw it. If he guessed correctly, it should be the North Blue monster Little Squid. The sea monster that dragged the Sunny after being beaten away by Luffy and his 3 friends in the previous life. Luo Te rubbed Nami's head, and then a red light flashed in his eyes. The Red Conqueror's Haki rushed towards the sea monster. The Top Conqueror's Haki is not exaggerated. Although Luo Te only released less than 1/3, the sea monster still rolled its eyes and sank into the deep sea. What a pity. Luo Te touched his chin and shook his head slightly. Seeing that the sea monster had been solved, Linger also got excited at this time. Luo Te, are you going to take the sea monster as lunch? No, I just feel sorry for such a good boat-pulling tool. After that, Luo Te no longer cared about the life and death of the sea monster, and controlled the breaking air. Number 1. To move forward at a high speed in the direction of the pointer. At this time, the surroundings were already very dark and nothing could be seen. As time went on, a bright light appeared in front of everyone. Is that the Fishman Island? Chapter 105. The Fishman Island, like a dream. As the light gradually grew, a spherical island gradually appeared in everyone's sight. Wow, so beautiful. Is this the legendary the Fishman Island? Why is there sunlight in the deep sea? Linger's face was full of curiosity. Even Robin was excited at this time. How was this island formed? When can its history be traced back? I wonder if there is any historical text on the island. Nami was a little expectant. It is said that the beauty of the mermaid princess is not even Hancock's sister dared to say that it can be surpassed. I wonder if I can see it this time. Linger pulled Nami's arm and whispered in Nami's ear. Be quiet, otherwise Luo Te will hear it. She didn't believe that Luo Te would not be moved when he saw the mermaid princess. How could Luo Te not hear what Nami and the others said, and the corners of his mouth slightly tightened. Judging from the comics he read in his previous life, the appearance of the mermaid princess is indeed not inferior to Hancock. But Shirahoshi is too big, and it will become a problem for the two to communicate deeply at that time. He can only be powerless, so he can only pretend that he didn't hear what Nami said. Robin stood beside Luo Te and looked at Luo Te with interest. What, really have no idea about the mermaid princess? Luo Te stretched out his hand and pinched Robin's hip. How dare you tease your husband like this? I'll teach you a lesson tonight. Robin's legs softened, although Luo Te had been monopolized by Hancock for several days. But when she thought of Luo Te's terrifying fighting power, she couldn't help but feel weak in the knees. It might take 3 of her or even more to fight Luo Te, and she didn't dare to say she won easily. For a while, Robin was silent, and didn't dare to tease Luo Te anymore. Instead, she looked at the Fishman Island, which was getting closer and closer, with expectation. Human. What are you doing in the Fishman Island? With a clear warning sound, several huge sea beasts appeared not far from the bow. Talking sea beasts. There are so many of them. What should I do? I'm going to be eaten by sea beasts. Linger covered his eyes. We are about to enter the Fishman Island. We are not going to be eaten, are we? Robin saw the strangeness and said, why are there creatures like elephants in the sea, and there are lions, gorillas, and giraffes next to them? It's really a magical underwater world. And every sea beast has a nose rope tied to its mouth. It must have been domesticated. Luo Te looked up and naturally recognized that these were all members of the new Fishmen pirates in Fishman Street. Huh? Are you the Luo Te pirates? As the voice sounded, several fishmen with strange shapes slowly emerged from behind the giraffe. Linger raised his eyebrows. It seems that our reputation has spread to 10,000 meters under the sea. The fishman with sharp mouth and fangs in the middle stretched out his right hand full of jade and covered the logo of Arlong's group, Hammon, Hammon, Hammon. We naturally know Luo Te's group that once crushed Brother Arlong. Hearing the words of the fishman, Nami's eyes condensed, and she naturally saw the familiar Arlong logo. I once heard Luo Te say that Arlong's group was from the Fishman Street of the Fishman Island in New World. I think this fishman should know Arlong. She said, are you also from Arlong's group? The sharp-mouthed fishman replied, we are the new Fishman pirate group that inherited Brother Arlong's will. Linger also knew after hearing this sentence that the few people in front of him were enemies, not friends, and they were afraid of sea monsters not because of their strength, but because they were afraid of ugliness. Suddenly, wisps of flames floated from her body, and she only needed to wait for Luo Te to give the order, so that she could give these fishmen a head-on blow with lightning speed. Nami instantly recalled Arlong's various actions in Cocoa West Village, and for a moment, she no longer had any good feelings towards these fishmen. Luo Te shook his head and asked, new Fishman pirates? I haven't heard of them. Is it the garbage thrown away by Fisher Tiger? Hearing the name Fisher Tiger, the pupils of several fishmen shrank suddenly. Only to hear the fishman in the middle ask in disbelief, you. How do you know this name? He was shocked, because Fisher Tiger was the captain of the Fishman Pirates, the great hero who climbed up the Red Line and rescued many slaves. However, Robin murmured after hearing the name, Fisher Tiger. Is he the fishman who climbed up the Red Line? Harmon, Brother Fisher Tiger trusted humans too much, which led to his miserable end, and our new Fishman pirate group will not repeat the mistakes of Brother Fisher Tiger. The fishman with sharp mouth and fangs clenched his weapon. Humans are all despicable and inferior races, only the fishmen are the gods of this world. Luo Te listened to the words that were exactly the same as those of the fishman Arlong, and could only shake his head. It seems that if we want all the races in the world to live happily together, there is still a long way to go. After that, Conqueror's Haki was activated. After just one encounter, these sea beasts and fishmen all foamed at the mouth and lost consciousness. Seeing this, Linger put away the flames on his body and pointed to the giant bubble in the direction of the bow. Hey, Luo Te, that's the Fishman Island, right? Luo Te nodded. Yes, that's the Fishman Island. Let's go to the Fishman Island and have a look. It is said that there are the most powerful fashion designers in the world on the Fishman Island. Linger's eyes were almost filled with the words, shopping, while speaking.
Luo Te rubbed her head with some pampering. Okay, let's go to the Fishman Island now.
He waved his hand, and the boat rushed towards the giant bubble at a very fast speed. There was a circle of electromagnetic barriers around the boat, so it was very easy to pass through the bubble and fly towards the main island of Fishman. Luo Te, we are pirates after all. Will it cause panic if we appear on the Fishman Island with a boat like this? Luo Te tilted his head and looked at Robin. I have to say, Robin is still thoughtful. As he said that, he put the boat into the system space, and then everyone landed on a cloud. By the way, Luo Te, Luo and Beppo are still on the ship. Nami was horrified. Although she didn't know how Luo Te put away the pirate ship, she knew that Luo and Beppo were still in the training room. Luo Te couldn't help pinching Nami's bouncy face. Nami, they're fine. They're still training on the ship now. He couldn't help but sigh. Nami was not only beautiful, but also considerate of others. This might be the reason why so many One Piece fans liked her in her previous life. Nami nodded when she heard it. She thought Luo Te would not make such a mistake. With a wave of his hand, the clouds under his feet quickly moved towards the Fishman's Bay. Is this the scenery of the Fishman Island? So beautiful. Everyone looked up. A giant watercolor painting appeared in front of them. The sun shone through the blue sea, scattered on the island, reflecting colorful light. Corals were intertwined. Among them, mermaids were playing, and they looked at the three women and one man who appeared curiously. Tubular waterways form skybridges, with schools of fish swimming through them. Luo Te and his gang, King Neptune invites you. Chapter 106. Invited to Dragon Palace City. Luo Te and the other three looked in the direction of the sound and saw three giant mermaids slowly coming towards them. The one in the middle had wavy blue hair, a mouth full of shark teeth, a dot on her forehead, a white dress, and a light blue ribbon on her shoulder. The one on the left had orange-red hair combed into a ribbon floating in the air, a mouth that looked like a bird's beak, and several gill slits on both sides of her long neck. The mermaid on the right was relatively short and fat, with a big sausage mouth and red hair combed into two ears. The three of them had a swimming ring made of coral bubbles wrapped around their waists, which was why they could fly in the air. Luo Te naturally recognized them. These three were the three sons of King Neptune, Shark Star, Emperor Star, and Flip Star. The words just now were obviously said by the Prince of Shark Star in the middle. Luo Te exclaimed at how fast they were. They had just arrived at the Fishman Island when they were discovered by the palace, and now they had sent the three princes to invite them to visit Dragon Palace City. Although he didn't know what Neptune meant, since he was in someone else's territory, it wouldn't be a bad idea to visit him. He nodded and responded, okay, let's go to Dragon Palace City to take a look. Shark Star took out 4 pieces of coral and handed them to Luo Te and the others. What is this? Linger turned the coral over and over in his hand, a little puzzled. After all, as a gift, it was a bit simple. Shark Star knew that people who had never lived in the Fishman Island would hardly know the use of this coral, and he also explained it patiently. Hearing that Luo Te accepted the invitation and agreed to go to Dragon Palace City, Huang Xing was in a good mood. Then let us lead the way with you. Du la mifa so la si du. Turning Star was also turning around, turning, let us lead the way. The two brothers said and walked in front of Luo Te and the others to lead the way. Shark Star is different from his two younger brothers who have a sloppy personality. He always does things very seriously and meticulously. He walked beside Luo Te and his group, secretly looking at the 4 Luo Te in front of him, and his vigilance relaxed a little. He saw that Luo Te was not as tyrannical and bloodthirsty as rumored. Perhaps the purpose of this 5 emperors coming to the Fishman Island was really just to pass through to the New World. It seems that his father's worry may be unnecessary. Ling Er quietly asked beside Luo Te. Luo Te, is Ryugu City on that? She pointed to a huge bubble floating above the main island of the Fishman Island. Through the bubble, you can vaguely see several magnificent buildings inside, and from time to time you can see a group of soldiers in uniform patrolling. This is Lord Ling Er, right? That's right, that is Ryugu City, where the king of the Fishman Island lives. Shark Star answered Ling Er's question before Luo Te. He has to be more active and attentive now. Although the Fishman Island is the territory of 4 emperors Whitebeard, it only hangs a flag of the Whitebeard pirates. Usually, he never asked a question about the various things of the entire the Fishman Island. Moreover, Whitebeard was far away in the New World, and his territories were countless, so it was impossible for him to worry about the Fishman Island alone. Even when the Fishman Island was in trouble or attacked, it was only a captain who came to Whitebeard for help. It was almost useless against someone like Luo Te. Moreover, he had reason to believe that Whitebeard would definitely not go to war with the 5 emperors Luo Te for the Fishman Island, and at most it would be a negotiation. So now he had to serve Luo Te and his group attentively. Luo Te couldn't help but look sideways when he heard this. This Shark Star was a prince, but now he was like a waiter who was specially serving him. Ah, that's Prince Shark Star. Prince Shark Star, you are so handsome, I want to give birth to a baby for you. Ah, Prince Shark Star, I want to marry you, even if I have to live in a palace and have endless money every day, I am willing. Shut up, are you dreaming? Prince Shark Star, I love you, I want to marry you. Ah, What about me? I am your husband. Listening to the voices of the fishmen around, Linger covered her mouth and looked at Sharkstar with a weird face. She was very curious about how Prince Sharkstar would react to these remarks, and she liked these 8 trigrams the most. Robin touched his chin, stared at Sharkstar and murmured, "This Prince Sharkstar is really handsome, and he is a prince. No wonder these fishmen are so crazy." However, Sharkstar seemed to have not heard these words, and was still beside Luo Te to introduce the entire Fishman Island to Luo Te. "Lord Luo Te, this is the shopping street of the Fishman Island. You can come here to buy some specialties of the Fishman Island when the time comes." Sharkstar pointed to a busy street in front of him and introduced. Luo Te glanced at it and couldn't help nodding. This street was very prosperous, with all kinds of goods on display. Nami and Linger were almost unable to control their shopping urges. If they hadn't been going to Dragon Palace City now, they would have been shopping a lot. "My guest, you have a good eye. This is a new model I designed this year. It is hand-sewn with gold best fabric and the sewing thread is gold thread." Luo Te felt familiar when he heard this voice, as if he had returned to Blue Star. He looked over and saw an extremely luxurious clothing store. The entire clothing store was shaped like a 5-pointed star and decorated with luxurious giant pearls. At this time, there was a beautiful fishman woman holding a bra. And next to the beautiful woman was a starfish with a hat. Luo Te's mouth curled. "Isn't this Papagu, the chief fashion designer of the Fishman Island? The clothes inside are indeed high-end, and he is worthy of being a designer who is famous inside and outside the Fishman Island." He knew that if Nami and the others knew about the existence of this store, they might have been cleared out long ago, but it was indeed the case. Linger took Nami's hand. "Hey, Nami, let's go to this store to buy clothes later. I have nothing to wear." Nami also touched her clothes. "Yeah, I have nothing to wear either." Luo Te naturally heard it, and couldn't help but pout. It seems that the women in this world are no different from those on Blue Star. There is always one less piece of clothing in the closet, and in fact, their clothes can no longer fit. But their men don't do that. 2 sets of clothes for a season are enough, so that the closets at home are almost occupied by women, and men are only equipped with a corner. There is even no corner in the closet, but a storage box or a cardboard box. It seems that after the trip to Dragon Palace City, the women must come to this store first. Along the way, with the introduction of Sharkstar, everyone came to the bottom of Dragon Palace City. "From here we can enter the Dragon Palace, Duremafazalaxido. Turn over, we are going to enter the Dragon Palace." Luo Te did not choose to use the electromagnetic barrier, and also planned to experience the characteristics of the Fishman Island. At this moment, a huge axe flew towards the Dragon Palace at a high speed. Chapter 107. New Murloc movements. Luo Te reached out and gently pushed the giant axe, and the giant axe rotated and slowly stopped in front of Luo Te's hand. There was a red rose printed on the giant axe. "What is this?" Nami looked at the axe, a little incredible. Going towards Ryubu Castle at that speed, it was obviously not a performance, but a murderous aura. It felt like someone threw the axe towards Ryubu Castle from a distance. However, when they saw the axe, the 3 Sharkstars frowned and their expressions were full of anger. They had been looking for Vanda Duncan's traces, but he was like a loach, always running away when they were about to find him. They also issued a reward, but they did not succeed in catching him. Vanda Duncan was like a snake hiding in the dark, always spying on Princess Shirahoshi. Unlike Hody Jones, who wanted to get Princess Shirahoshi, Hody Jones wanted to control the entire palace by controlling Shirahoshi, and then control the Fishman Island. Vanda Duncan coveted Shirahoshi's beauty and wanted to marry her. At first, Vanda Duncan was quite polite and only used the target fruit to send Shirahoshi some roses and love letters. But after being rejected by Princess Shirahoshi several times, he became a little crazy. He turned into a twisted personality of destroying if you can't get it. In order to protect Shirahoshi, Putin locked Shirahoshi in a hard shell tower. Luo Te gently grasped the axe in the air, and lightning flashed around the 2-meter-long axe, and then it broke into countless pieces and fell to the ground. As a time traveler, he naturally knew that this was the axe that Vanda Duncan threw at the mermaid princess using the target fruit. In the surveillance of the super heart net, he clearly found the figure of Vanda Duncan. A fishman with 4 legs and split lips opened his arms and laughed. "Target, Princess Shirahoshi, please accept my love for you, so that we can enter the palace of happy marriage." Luo Te's eyes condensed slightly, and he decided to deal with him later. The 3 people of Prince Sharkstar were shocked when they saw Luo Te easily intercepted the giant axe and turned it into powder. Prince Sharkstar murmured in his heart, "As expected of the 5 emperors, I can't compare to him for showing this skill easily." He explained to Nami, "This is an enemy of the kingdom, a weapon thrown from a distance." He did not say that this was Vanda Duncan's means of revenge against his sister. As Shirahoshi's brother, there was no need to tell this family affair to strangers. Ling said at this time, "Since he is an enemy, why not catch him?" The eyes of the 3 brothers darkened when they heard it. Sharkstar explained, "It's not that we don't want to catch him, it's just that the enemy is too cunning." Then he changed the subject, "But now there is no huge loss, and we don't care about him. I'll go to Dragon Palace City first." Luo Te looked at the prince, and his heart couldn't help but look up to him. He knew how to be patient, didn't show his emotions, and knew what to do at the moment. He is a talent. Since Sharkstar didn't continue, Nami and others could only put aside their curiosity. Luo Te glanced at Nami and others, and then said to Sharkstar and the other two, "Okay, then please ask the prince to take us to Dragon Palace City first." Sharkstar nodded to Luo Te, and took the lead to fly up to a giant round window. "Ding, I'm Sharkstar, please open the door." As the round window shook violently, the baffle blocking the round channel was slowly opened. A channel extended from the inner bubble to the outer bubble. Sharkstar turned around and said to Luo Te and his group, "Let's go." Then he was the first to enter the passage. "You go in first, and the two of us will cover the rear." Do re mi fa suo la shi duo. Huang Xing made way to the side. Flip, you go first. Dragon Palace City has placed a giant bubble, and there is no water in it. Flip. Flipstar also made way. Luo Te pressed the bottom of the coral in his hand, and a giant bubble suddenly appeared around the four people and wrapped them up. He was not reassured, so he put a layer of electromagnetic barrier on the outside, and then led Nami and others into the passage. "Hey, is there water in this passage? I thought it was air." Ling looked at the passage curiously. Outside the passage were all kinds of swimming fish, and the sun cast rays along the roots of the Eve tree, with a dim temptation. Fishman Street. "What, you said that Prince Sharkstar and his group invited Luo Te and his group to Dragon Palace City?" A fishman sitting on the main seat roared. This fishman has long black curly hair and a mouth full of sharp teeth. He wears a flat hat with a trident pattern, a wolfskin scarf around his neck, and a large tattoo on his left arm. It is the captain of the new fishman pirate group, Hody Jones. Hearing the report from his fishmen, Hody Jones was extremely angry. Why did that old guy do this? He actually invited humans to Ryugu City. He crushed the handle of the chair under him, his eyes flashing fiercely. "Are you sure it was Sharkstar who invited Luo Te?" The fishmen lowered their heads and didn't dare to look at Hody at all. They just nodded like pounding garlic. "Yes, I saw them going to Ryugu City together." "Nani?" Hody was so angry that his teeth fell out. Originally, when he heard that the 5 emperors Luo Te came to the Fishman Island, he was not very surprised. He guessed that Luo Te might just pass through the Fishman Island and would not affect his plan. So when Luo Te and his party came to the Fishman Island, he sent someone to ask Luo Te and his party's purpose. But now he has not returned, and Luo Te has appeared on the Fishman Island. He has reason to suspect that Luo Te had an accident. However, who knows that the old guy Neptune, for some unknown purpose, foolishly invited Luo Te and his party to visit Dragon Palace City. Completely disrupted his plan. Stupid Neptune, it seems that he has forgotten the tragedy of Brother Fisher Tiger, and dared to invite humans. Hody was extremely angry about Neptune's behavior. A noble mermaid tribe was so close to humans. He knew that Fisher Tiger was injured by humans before. When he asked for blood transfusion from humans, no one answered and he bled to death. Thinking of this, his hatred in his heart deepened. In fact, he himself was not directly persecuted by humans, but simply hated humans. He completely gathered the hatred of the fishmen and humans that he saw on himself. The hatred in his heart was about to overflow when he thought that his compatriots might have been killed by Luo Te and his gang. Although the current military strength may not be able to fight against the Kingdom Army, as long as he has the ES murder medicine, he is confident that he can seize the Fishman Island. At that time, all fishmen will not be allowed to approach humans, and humans will no longer be allowed to pass through the Fishman Island to the New World. Hey, notify them, we have to advance the plan. Chapter 108. Neptune's Request. We're here. This is Dragon Palace City. Welcome to Dragon Palace City. Prince Sharkstar turned around and spoke to everyone. Hearing this, Luo Te and others all looked up. They saw a huge palace in front of them. The palace was built on the coral reef, which looked well arranged without destroying the beauty of the environment. The whole palace was designed with jade green and gold yellow as the main colors. A golden dragon was perched on the palace, making it look particularly majestic. There were many schools of fish around the palace, as if in a dream. It's so big. It looked so big from below, but it was even bigger when I came in. Ling looked at the huge Dragon Palace City and was shocked. Nami was also a little surprised. It's so beautiful. It must be nice to live in such a palace, right? Robin's focus was a little different. This palace looks like it has a long history. It has been perfectly integrated with the surrounding environment. I don't know how many years it has stood. Luo Te was thinking of the Straw Hat crew in the original book. They were invited to visit Ryugugu because they rescued Princess Shirahoshi's pet Mikaro from the North Blue giant monster Kurakan. They were also identified as kidnappers by King Neptune because of Shiarli's divination and Luffy's kidnapping Shirahoshi. And now he was invited to visit Ryugugu just because he passed by the Fishman Island. I think it might be because he is one of the 5 emperors. I just don't know what the meaning of this King Neptune's dumpling machine coming to Ryugugu is. As the gate was opened, the soldiers on both sides of the avenue shouted in unison. Welcome back, Prince Sharkstar, Prince Royal Star, Prince Flipstar. Sharkstar nodded to them, turned around and extended his hand to Luo Te and others, making a please gesture. everyone, please. Wow. There is no water here, look. Linger ran to the avenue, opened his arms and turned around, like an elf lost in the forest. Hearing this, Nami also opened her arms like Linger and ran forward. Robin quietly walked forward with Luo Te, just like a parent with two daughters. Luo Te couldn't help but nod secretly at the kingdom's actions. It seemed that they had put a little thought into welcoming them. Everyone, this way. Sharkstar and the other two led Luo Te and his group into a huge banquet hall. There was a huge long table in the huge banquet hall. At this time, the table was piled with all kinds of delicacies from the mountains and the sea. Wow, so fragrant. Linger ran quickly to a big lobster, and his saliva dripped directly to the ground. Luo Te couldn't help shaking his head when he saw Linger like this. It's true that Linger is a chef, but she is also a big foodie. There is a saying that the best chefs are often greedy foodies. In fact, this sentence is also true. How can you cook if you can't eat? However, Linger's actions fell into the eyes of the soldiers around, and they all secretly complained in their hearts. Pirates are pirates, how can they have manners? Luo Te naturally heard their voices, but his expression did not change at all. After all, they were talking about the facts. The etiquette in the palace is quite strict, and it is understandable that they can say such things. But Luo Te still likes to do anything and never restrain his nature. Ho ho ho, Miss Linger, don't worry about eating, eat whatever you want, Lord Luo Te, Miss Nami and Miss Robin, please take a seat. Hearing this voice, Linger realized that there was a mermaid uncle with thick orange hair sitting at the end of the dining table, and he was wearing a golden crown on his head. For a moment, he awkwardly retracted his hand that was about to grab the lobster, and looked at Luo Te angrily. When Luo Te saw this mermaid uncle, he naturally recognized that it was the king of the Fishman Island, Neptune. Nami and Robin saw the crown and naturally guessed who that person was. The soldiers next to them pulled out chairs for everyone, and Luo Te and others also sat down. The three princes of Sharkstar sat quietly aside, each with a napkin around their necks. Compared with Linger and Nami's chic, Robin was still quite polite. If Luo Te didn't say anything, he would have thought she was a princess. Lord Luo Te, I wonder what you are doing here at the Fishman Island this time. Hearing this, Luo Te understood why Neptune invited him to Dragon Palace City. He thought that such a big figure would definitely be worried and confused when he came to his territory. People like Neptune also knew that people like Luo Te had an unpredictable temper. If they were not well entertained, even if they were a little bit neglectful, they might push the Fishman Island into an endless abyss. So when Luo Te and his party just landed on the Fishman Island, he had already started to prepare for this banquet. As long as Luo Te and his party were well fed and served, they might just pass by and would not cause any damage to the Fishman Island. Robin looked at Luo Te with some amusement. His eyes were self-evident. Luo Te, look at you, how scared others are. Luo Te spread his hands helplessly and replied, I just want to borrow a passage to New World. You don't have to worry. Oh, that's good, that's good. Hearing Luo Te's words, Neptune patted his chest and couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. He thought Luo Te was coming for the mermaid princess. After all, there is a legend on the sea that Luo Te loves beautiful women, and any beautiful woman Luo Te sees can't escape Luo Te's clutches. And his daughter's beauty is not inferior to the world's most beautiful woman, so he is very afraid that Luo Te is coming for her daughter. Luo Te rolled his eyes, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. Damn, everyone loves beauty, okay? Why do you say I'm a sex maniac? By the way, uncle, when we were about to enter the Dragon Palace, a huge axe suddenly flew over. If Luo Te hadn't intervened, it might have flown over to my palace. The consequences would be unimaginable. Hearing Nami say this, Neptune's pupils shrank, and he whispered, has it appeared again? The frequency is much more frequent now than before. It seems that the hard shell tower may not last long. Then he looked up at Luo Te with gratitude, then thank you, Lord Luo Te. Nami and others naturally heard Neptune's muttering. Uncle, what is that? What is a hard shell tower? Linger had a big mouthful of seafood in his mouth, and his voice seemed a little vague. Alas! Neptune knew that he could no longer hide it, and as far as it can be seen, Luo Te is not as evil as the rumors say, so he can only tell the whole story. That Vanda Duncan is really abominable. Love is something that is mutually agreed upon. Since the mermaid princess doesn't like him, he should just quit. Why does he feel like he can't afford to lose? Linger clenched her fists, looking indignant. Nami looked at Luo Te and said, the target fruit is really a disgusting thing. Luo Te, your observation hockey should be able to find the location of Vanda Duncan. Linger also echoed, yes, Luo Te, help Shirahoshi. She is so pitiful, she has lived in a hard shell tower since she was a child. It has been so many years now, and she has never seen the outside world. Luo Te couldn't help rubbing his eyebrows. He knew that Nami and Linger, these two girls, couldn't bear to see women suffer, let alone the mermaid princess. The eyes of the Sharkstar prince looking at Luo Te were also full of expectations. He hoped that Luo Te would help his sister, even if it cost him his life. Luo Te could only nod, of course I sensed where he is. Hearing this, Neptune's defense was broken. He felt sorry for his daughter the most. When he thought of his daughter living in the hard-shell tower for so many years, he couldn't help but shed tears. Lord Luo Te, please help Shirahoshi. He stood up and bowed to Luo Te. The 3 shark stars also bowed to Luo Te. Chapter 109. Vanda Duncan becomes a dried fish. Luo Te rubbed his brows and looked around to find that everyone was looking at him with expectation. He could only sigh helplessly. Okay, I'll be back soon. He disappeared into the banquet hall after saying that. Neptune hadn't said his thanks yet, and stared blankly at the place where Luo Te had sat. Luo Te was moving towards the distance at a high speed like a meteor, and the seawater formed a huge vacuum environment around Luo Te. It was like a giant cannonball sweeping towards the position where Vanda Duncan was. From a distance, Luo Te saw a figure wrapped in bubbles, standing on the side of a huge ship. The giant ship was naturally the Noah's Ark of the Fishman Island.
Target ho ho, Princess Shirahoshi, marry me quickly. Vanda Duncan was holding an axe with a rose printed on it. The 4 legs danced a strange dance, and the long beard trembled with excitement. Oh, what are you doing? As the voice sounded, Luo Te's figure slowly emerged in front of Vanda Duncan. Who are you? A figure suddenly appeared in front of him, and Vanda Duncan's pupils shrank, and the whole person was frightened and stepped back several steps. He rubbed his eyes and saw Luo Te's face in front of him. You are the 5 emperors Luo Te. He felt nervous. This Luo Te was really as handsome as the legend said, and his aura was unmatched. Even if he just stood quietly in front of him, he could hardly move a bit, and he couldn't even think of resisting. He was worthy of being called the man of the 5 emperors. He didn't know what the purpose of this Luo Te was, but at present, he should be coming for him, and there was a great possibility that he was here to cause trouble for him. And just now, Hody Jones informed him that because of Luo Te, the plan had to be advanced. He guessed in his heart, could it be that Neptune discovered the plan between him and Hody in secret, and this Luo Te was the reinforcements invited by Neptune? It doesn't feel right to think like this. The Fishman Island was originally Whitebeard's territory. Even if we want to find someone, it can only be Whitebeard's people. Luo Te looked up and down at the 4-legged fish man in front of him, who was as ugly inside and out, and he was really as disgusting as in the original book. He didn't intend to talk to Vanda Duncan. I've been craving for fish recently, please die for me. Hearing Luo Te's undisguised words, Vanda Duncan's heart sank to the bottom. He didn't believe that Luo Te came so far just to kill fish. There must be a deeper reason. He quickly raised his hands. Lord Luo Te, I don't know how I offended you, please don't kill me. Luo Te looked at Vanda Duncan expressionlessly. You should know the mistakes you made. Vanda Duncan recalled the bad things he had done in his life. When he was a child, he took off a piece of the mermaid sister's scales, stole the mermaid sister's shell milk cap when she was bathing, peeped at the fishman widow next door taking a bath, and threw an axe at Princess Shirahoshi. Princess Shirahoshi. He suddenly remembered that Luo Te was a sex maniac. It was impossible for him not to know the beauty of Shirahoshi. Could it be that he came for Shirahoshi? He quickly apologized. Lord Luo Te, I will give Princess Shirahoshi to you, please let me go. Luo Te was very upset. Why was it said everywhere that he was a sex maniac? He really wasn't. He just happened to have a few beautiful women on the ship who were very close to each other, and he ate Hancock. And what does give mean? Don't you have any self-awareness? But he was too lazy to explain to this scumbag. Oh no, fish scumbag, saying a few more words to him would make Luo Te disgusted. Even if you are right, please die. After saying that, he appeared in front of Vanda Duncan in an instant and grabbed his neck. Electromagnetic force was activated, and gradually Vanda Duncan's body was seen twisting, and finally turned into a dried fish. He threw the dried fish under Noah, and his figure gradually disappeared on the side of Noah's ship. The Fishman Island Dragon Palace City, Banquet Hall. Is Lord Luo Te gone like this? Will he be okay? Neptune's tone was full of worry. It's not that he doesn't believe in Luo Te's strength. In the water, fishmen always have an advantage of breathing over humans. He looked at Ling who was still wolfing down, Nami who was forking the fish, and Robin who looked quiet. It seemed that he didn't care about the life and death of his captain at all, and he had no appetite at all now. Is Lord Luo Te really okay? Doremi Fasolaxido. Wangxing was walking around the dining table at this time, and the whole fish looked a little anxious. Even the usually calm shark star was full of worry at this time. The flip star was spinning on the side, but he was not so worried. Flip, Lord Luo Te will not flip. Robin laughed. There should be nothing dangerous for Luo Te in this world. Don't worry, he will be back soon. But, he is a human after all, and can't breathe in water. Neptune is now extremely worried. If Luo Te has something wrong on the Fishman Island, then his crew will blame it on the Fishman Island. At that time, such a small island as the Fishman Island can't bear their anger. Robin naturally knows the reason why Neptune is worried, but no matter how she explains now, Neptune will not believe it until she sees Luo Te return safely. Outside the hard-shell tower of Ryugu City. A figure slowly emerged, and it was Luo Te who had just dealt with Vanda Duncan. Originally, he planned to go back to the banquet hall directly, but when he thought about how he could give up the opportunity to see the stunning face of the mermaid princess since he had come to the Fishman Island. You have to know that he still has the title of sex maniac and lowly control. Neptune would not let him see Shirahoshi in order to protect Princess Shirahoshi. So he planned to see Shirahoshi first, and if possible, take Shirahoshi to the banquet hall directly. Is it here? I remember it should be here in the original book. Luo Te looked at the dark outer wall in front of him, which was covered with various scars. You can also see many weapons on the side of the wall, such as axes, knives, swords, hammers, maces, etc. He knew that these were all masterpieces of Vanda Duncan. He stretched out his hand and pressed on this wall. As the electromagnetic force was activated, he saw the black wall flashing with lightning and slowly melting a big hole. Looking inside from the outside, he could vaguely see the pink light reflected by the lights in the room from the cave entrance. Without hesitation, he stepped in. Who are you? A pleasant female voice entered Luo Te's ears, plucking Luo Te's heartstrings like the sound of flowing water. Chapter 110. Finally meet the mermaid princess. He couldn't help but look up, and saw a huge mermaid lying on a bed made of pink shells. Big eyes, tender skin, long pink tail, huge peaks. Although this mermaid is huge, every part of it is perfect, and the combination is just like a work of art. Hello, Shirahoshi, I'm Luo Te. Luo Te stood on the ground, not jumping on her peaks like Luffy in the original. Lord Luo Te, are you here to catch me? Woo 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 woo. As Shirahoshi's voice fell, there were also tears the size of a basin. Luo Te dodged left and right, secretly sighing in his heart that he was really a crybaby, but he would not say it directly like Luffy in the original. He knew that Shirahoshi had been living alone in the hard shell tower since she was almost 6 years old, and it had been 8 years so far, and the only one who accompanied her every day was the shark Mekuro. Although she was extremely sensible, her temperament was only about the same as that of a child in her teens, and it was very normal for her to cry when she met a stranger. So Luo Te could only coax her like a child, and speak as gently as possible. Princess Shirahoshi, I really came to save you. I have killed Vanda Duncan, and you will never have to live in the hard shell tower again. Hearing this, Shirahoshi really stopped crying. Lord Luo Te, is it true? The big red eyes stared at Luo Te, and for a moment Luo Te actually planned to protect her for the rest of her life. Really? Luo Te nodded, her tone was very affirmative. Woo woo woo, Lord Luo Te, you are such a good person. Shirahoshi held Luo Te in his palm and cried loudly. Seeing Shirahoshi like this, Luo Te muttered in his heart, this mermaid princess is too simple. Also, please don't give me the good guy card, okay? Luo Te sat in Shirahoshi's palm, feeling Shirahoshi's palm soft and warm. Shirahoshi, stop crying, I'll take you to find your dad, okay? Hearing this, Shirahoshi really stopped crying, with tears still in his eyes. Really, Lord Luo Te. She couldn't believe it. After all, he had lived in the hard shell tower since he was 6 years old and had never gone out. When she wanted to see her father and brother, they would come in. And her father and 3 brothers, as the leaders of the kingdom, couldn't come to visit her every day. The only one who accompanied her the most was her pet shark. And now she was still a little excited to hear that she could go out. Luo Te looked at this beautiful girl, and for a moment he wanted to hold her in his arms. Yes, let's go out now. Shirahoshi looked outside with big eyes, with a little expectation in his vigilance. Luo Te was still held in her palm and walked towards the door. Is this the outside? I haven't seen it for many years. Shirahoshi paused as he looked at the familiar yet strange scene outside. My thoughts went back to my childhood, when my 3 brothers led me to play here, and my parents were also with me at that time. Time flies, the mother is gone, the father has to deal with government affairs, and the 3 brothers have to manage the security of the entire Fishman Island. And he has been locked up for more than 8 years. Luo Te can naturally sense Shirahoshi's mood. He turned his eyes to Shirahoshi's face and was surprised that the little girl was quite brave and did not cry. If it were an ordinary person, she would have burst into tears long ago. The more sensible, the more pitiful. He slowly rose and floated around Shirahoshi's eyes, gently brushing away her undried tears. Shirahoshi, I know it's lonely to stay in there for 8 years alone, it's okay, you don't have to stay in there anymore. Shirahoshi is a girl after all. No one likes to stay in a dark room. Who doesn't want to be accompanied by parents every day? After hearing Luo Te's words, she couldn't help it anymore. All the grievances of 8 years were released at this moment. Wow. Luo. Lord Luo Te, Luo Te was a little confused. Why did this little girl break down directly? For a moment, he seemed flustered. Shirahoshi, don't cry, no one dares to bully you in the future. I said that no one can help you. Wow, Lord Luo Te, are you serious? Shirahoshi held Luo Te in front of him and looked at him with tears in his eyes. Such a delicate and beautiful girl, who can bear it? Okay, Okay. Be obedient. Good, I will take you to find your father and brother now, okay. Luo Te tried to make his tone a little gentler. Shirahoshi nodded, stretched out his hand to wipe away the tears. The hard shell tower is very close to the banquet hall and the palace hall, and the two arrived at the door of the banquet hall in a short while. Nani. By Princess Shirahoshi. At the entrance of the banquet, a hippo mermaid saw Shirahoshi and Luo Te appear here together, and Yama was stunned for a moment. He clearly remembered that Shirahoshi was in the hard shell tower. How could he appear here? Are you Uncle Right Minister? Shirahoshi looked at the old seahorse in front of him, and gradually connected it with the familiar Right Minister in his memory. The Right Minister was so surprised that he trembled when he spoke. Princess Shirahoshi, why are you here, and, Lord Luo Te? Luo Te said. Right Minister, I have dealt with Vanda Duncan, and Shirahoshi will no longer have to stay in the hard shell tower. The Right Minister stared at Luo Te for a long time, nodded, and stopped blocking him. Father. 3 brothers. As soon as he entered the banquet hall, Shirahoshi saw his father and 3 brothers, and then ran straight to Neptune and hugged him tightly. Neptune was stunned at first, but then he reacted and also hugged Shirahoshi tightly. For a while, the father and daughter cried inconsolably. Robin and the other 2 looked at the huge mermaid princess and couldn't help but be amazed by it. Ling even forgot to chew, as this the mermaid princess. Although it's so big, it's really beautiful. Nami looked at the mermaid princess and puffed up her chest, but she was defeated in an instant. Robin glanced between Luo Te and Princess Shirahoshi, and she breathed a sigh of relief when she saw the huge size difference. The 3 princes of Shark Star saw Shirahoshi coming in, and naturally saw Luo Te, and their faces were full of doubts. Lord Luo Te, what's this? Luo Te knew what the 3 were worried about, and he explained, don't worry, there will no longer be a fishman named Vanda Duncan in the world, and Shirahoshi will not have to live in the hard shell tower in the future. The 3 people from Shark Star were all stunned when they heard Luo Te's answer. They knew that people like Luo Te would not lie to them. So Vanda Duncan, who threatened Shirahoshi's life, should have been really killed. Then the 3 of them knelt in front of Luo Te. A big male fish from Shark Star was crying loudly at this time, thank you, Lord Luo Te. Shark Star may not be able to repay you in this life, and you can be at my service in the future. Luo Te shook his head. What he feared most was this kind of sensational scene. He stretched out his hand and raised the 3 princes in the air. He helped the 3 princes up. Prince Shark Star, this is just a casual thing for me, there is no need to do this. Just when Shark Star wanted to say something, he heard Neptune's voice from behind. Chapter 111. Shirahoshi is going to marry Luo Te. Lord Luo Te, thank you for saving my daughter Shirahoshi. Neptune was also ready to kneel in front of Luo Te. Luo Te directly stretched out his hand and used electromagnetic force to stop him, and did not let Neptune kneel down. After all, as the head of a country, he still has to give corresponding respect. King Neptune, you don't have to do this. For me, it's just a piece of cake. Shirahoshi ran over and held Luo Te in his palm. Lord Luo Te, in order to thank you for rescuing me from the hard shell tower, I will marry you and be your wife. Nani. Neptune fell to the ground and twitched when he heard this. The 3 princes of Shark Star stared with their eyes wide open at this time. They thought they had heard it wrong. Shark Star asked with trembling lips, Shirahoshi, what did you say? Shirahoshi tilted his head and looked at Shark Star naively. Shark Star Nissan, I said I want to marry Lord Luo Te. Be his wife. Ah, Ling directly spit out all the food she had just eaten. Cough. She originally thought that Luo Te and Shirahoshi would not have anything to do in such a short time, who knew that this mermaid princess would marry Luo Te. Nami's face was full of smiles, but the knuckles of her hand holding the fork had turned white. The fork made a harsh sound in the plate. Robin was quite calm, she really hoped that Shirahoshi could become her sister. Otherwise, she and Hancock, even with Ling would probably be defeated by Luo Te. It's just this huge body difference. Wangxing scratched his ears. Shirahoshi, you said you want to marry Luo Te. Laxaduo. Shirahoshi looked at Luo Te in his hand with joy. Yes, marry Luo Te. Sharkxing looked at Shirahoshi calmly. Do you know what it means to get married? Shirahoshi nodded. Of course I know, it's like father and mother. Live together, have children, and raise them together. Sharkxing and the other 2 almost fainted on the spot after hearing this, and they focused their attention on Luo Te. They thought that their sister must have been cast by Luo Te, which made Shirahoshi say such words. However, they saw that Luo Te also looked confused, and it didn't look like Luo Te had done anything. At this time, Neptune stood up while pinching his fish, looking at Shirahoshi with an unbelievable expression. Luo Te was about to vomit blood. Shirahoshi, we can't get married. You are too young now. You don't know what marriage means, nor do you know the responsibilities and obligations of marriage. He didn't know why Shirahoshi would say such a shocking thing, and he couldn't hold it anymore. But I think Shirahoshi made such a decision because he was too young and didn't know what marriage was. Not to mention that the size difference between the two is huge. Shirahoshi is still ancient weapon Poseidon, and he is still so young. He didn't dare to agree easily. Even if they were together at that time, he might not be able to give her sexual happiness. Shirahoshi's eyes were filled with tears again when she heard this. Lord Luo Te, don't you like Shirahoshi? Why do you want to reject Shirahoshi? Luo Te hated to see women cry the most, and was in a panic for a while. Hey, Shirahoshi, don't cry, don't cry, I'm not rejecting you, it's just that you are too young now and don't understand what marriage is. Woo 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 woo, Lord Luo Te, don't reject Shirahoshi, no matter how many wives you have. Shirahoshi doesn't blame Lord Luo Te. As she spoke, Shirahoshi's tears fell like they were free. Luo Te didn't know what to do for a while, and could only look at Neptune for help. Neptune was also in a state of panic at this time. He knew that Shirahoshi had been a strong and obedient girl since she was a child, and she would usually be very obedient. But as long as she was determined to do something, she was very stubborn, and even her mother couldn't change it. He could only try to persuade. Don't cry, Shirahoshi, as long as you can answer your father's questions, then your father will let you marry Luo Te. Hearing this, Shirahoshi barely stopped crying. Really, father? Neptune nodded helplessly. Do you know what marriage is? Shirahoshi answered without thinking. It's just like you and your mother. Neptune heard this answer and could only assume it was right. Then do you know what the premise of two people getting married is? Shirahoshi's head tilted to the left and to the right from time to time. After a long time, he said, as long as two people like each other, they can get married. Neptune could only continue to ask, what is love? Like Lord Vanda Duncan, I don't like him, so I won't agree to his proposal. I like Lord Luo Te, so I want to marry Lord Luo Te. Hearing the question and answer between the father and daughter, Luo Te felt that his brain was almost not enough. He thought Neptune would directly express his disagreement with Shirahoshi marrying her. Who knew that this would make things even more complicated? Neptune was almost confused by himself at this time. Marriage is a matter between two people, and they have to like each other. Shirahoshi heard this and nodded to Neptune with certainty. Of course, Master Luo Te likes me, and I like Master Luo Te, so we should get married. Neptune directly kicked the ball back to Luo Te. Master Luo Te, you say it. Luo Te rolled his eyes and almost died of anger. But there was no way. If he really agreed to Shirahoshi now, he would really be a Lolita control. Cough cough cough, although he does like Shirahoshi. Shirahoshi, two people need love to get married. For example. However, before Luo Te finished speaking, Shirahoshi interrupted. Shirahoshi loves Master Luo Te, doesn't Master Luo Te love Shirahoshi? Luo Te, I like Shirahoshi too, but that's not love, so we can't get married. Wow, woo, Lord Luo Te, don't you want Shirahoshi anymore? Shirahoshi burst into tears upon hearing that. Luo Te rubbed his temples, and he had no other options. He looked at Shark Star and the other two. As a result, Shark Star also shook his head at Luo Te, indicating that there was nothing he could do. Then Shark Star pointed at Luo Te, indicating that he could only rely on himself. As Shirahoshi's eldest brother, Shark Star knew the character of the people the best, although he had become stronger after his mother's death. But now it seems that because Vanda Duncan was solved, the whole person has returned to his childhood temper. Luo Te looked at Nami and the other two girls again. As a result, Ling pretended not to see it and kept showing off his fandom. Nami rolled her eyes, and her expression clearly said, I caused the trouble myself, so I should deal with it myself. Only Robin nodded at Luo Te, meaning that he accepted Shirahoshi. It was Luo Te's turn to be confused. She wanted to marry your husband, and you agreed. Looking back at Shirahoshi who was crying, he could only answer, okay, Shirahoshi, be good, stop crying, I promise you. Oh, really? The moment he heard this, Shirahoshi stopped crying and happily held Luo Te and spun in circles. Luo Te looked at Shirahoshi's innocent and cute appearance, sighed slightly, and could only say, but there is a condition. What? Luo Te, oh, no, fiancé. Chapter 112, Xiarli's Divination. Neptune, Shark Star, Emperor Star, Rollover Star. Ah poo. As expected, Ling spit out another mouthful of food. What is going on? How did he become a fiancé? Nami widened her beautiful eyes, and the movement of her hands had stopped. She hadn't even called Luo Te her fiancé. How come someone else got there first? Speechless. Robin just laughed and prepared to see how Luo Te would perform. Hearing this address, Luo Te fell directly into Shirahoshi's hands. Shirahoshi, how old are you this year? Shirahoshi thought for a moment and replied, 14 this year, almost 15. Hearing this, Luo Te couldn't help but purse his lips. You are still too young now, you mermaids have to be 16 to get married. In his heart, Chunin couldn't help complaining. Although Shirahoshi was actually 14 years old, his mental age might only be around 10 years old. If he really married her, Luo Te would feel guilty no matter what he said. So let's make an agreement. If you still want to marry me after you turn 16, I will agree. Shirahoshi's mouth pursed slightly at first, and then he changed his face to a happy one. Really? So, in more than a year, I will marry Luo Te. Shirahoshi couldn't help but hold Luo Te in his palm and kissed him. Neptune saw that Shirahoshi finally calmed down, and couldn't help wiping the sweat from his forehead. He looked at Luo Te with some gratitude in his eyes. He knew that this was undoubtedly the best, not only stabilizing Shirahoshi, but also giving them buffer time. Every father hopes that his daughter can find the home she likes. Even if Shirahoshi still wants to marry Luo Te at that time, he can only agree. He has lost a woman he loves most, and now there is only one left. Nothing is more important than the happiness of his daughter. Shark Star looked at his sister's happy look and put his heart at ease. The reason why he didn't agree with Shirahoshi marrying Luo Te now was that he was afraid that Shirahoshi was just in a momentary mood, and it would be too late to regret it if they really got married. And now this approach should give him enough time to do ideological work with Shirahoshi. Even if he really married Luo Te at that time, he would not object. After all, based on his intuition, Luo Te was a person worthy of entrusting his life. Fishman Cafe. A female blue shark was looking at a crystal ball with a shocked face. This fishman had short black hair, cold blue eyes, pale skin and a very plump rabbit. Wearing a dark purple hooded top, because only 2 buttons were fastened, the deep ravines and flat abdomen were visible. If Luo Te was here, he would definitely recognize this mermaid, the chief fortune teller of the Fishman Island, Xiarli. How could it be? This person is 5 Emperors Luo Te. He wants to destroy the Fishman Island and send all the fishmen and mermaids on the island to heaven. She had just divined the future of the Fishman Island and saw that the Fishman Island had disappeared and everyone had ascended to heaven. The last scene turned and saw the fishmen who had ascended to heaven kneeling down in front of a figure. As the scene gradually moved forward, she finally saw the face of the person sitting in the main seat. It was the 5 Emperors Luo Te, and at this time he still had a wicked smile on his face. The result is self-evident, it was Luo Te who destroyed the Fishman Island and killed everyone on the island. Combined with the news reports, Luo Te was a bloodthirsty pirate, so she was not surprised at all to see this scene. Xiarli was so scared that she stepped back several steps and bumped into the shelf full of coffee cups behind her without paying attention. For a while, the coffee cups fell to the ground with a ping-pong sound. What's up, Mrs. Xiarli? A mermaid with short green hair, a pink fishtail and an apron ran in with a cup of steaming coffee. However, Xiarli sat on the ground holding his head, letting the bottles and jars fall on him. He was still muttering to himself. No, this can't go on. If we don't think of a way, the entire Fisherman Island will no longer exist. The green-haired mermaid looked at Xiarli in disbelief. What's wrong, Mrs. Xiarli? Who wants to destroy the Fishman Island? Xiarli looked up at the mermaid and said in a hurry, Kami, is the 5th Emperor Luo Te on this island? The green-haired mermaid is Kami, a forgetful mermaid with a careless personality. Kami tilted her head and thought for a while, then replied, the Madaka quintuplets said they saw Luo Te in Fisherman Bay. Xiarli ran to Kami and reached out to grab her shoulders. Go. Go and ask Luo Te to leave this island. Don't let him destroy the Fishman Island. She could only use the word, please, because she knew that even if she gathered all the power of the Fishman Island, she might not be able to pose a threat to the 5 emperors with a bounty of 3 billion. What? Lord Luo Te will destroy the Fishman Island. Kami was so surprised that her chin hit the ground and her tongue stuck out. Then she looked at the coffee in her hand. Go. You have a day off today. Go find Luo Te. No matter what method you use, you must make Luo Te leave the Fishman Island as soon as possible, otherwise it will be too late. Now nothing is more important than the Fishman Island. At this moment, 5 Madaka mermaids who look almost the same appear at the door. They are Kami's friends, Madaka 1 to 5. Yiming. Mrs. Xiarli, we just saw Luo Te being invited to Dragon Palace by Prince Shark Star and his men. I saw it. No, I saw it clearly. What's wrong with seeing it? Hearing Wu Ming's words, Xiarli's heart had already turned cold, and her head drooped even lower for a moment. Is it still a step too late? It seems that we can only wait for fate to decide. Kami walked to Xiarli's side and helped her up. Mrs. Xiarli, Lord Luo Te is now a guest in Dragon Palace. Is it too late? Xiarli took a pipe from the cabinet next to her. Kami, quickly tell the whole the Fishman Island about this matter. Let them escape quickly, and save as many as possible. Mrs. Xiarli, what about you? Xiarli lit the unfinished cigarette in the pipe and took a deep breath. I'll stay. But, seeing that Kami wanted to say something, Xiarli shook her head. She thought of her brother Arlong. It's not bad to reunite with my brother like this. Hurry up and inform everyone. I'll leave later. The Fishman Island, Fishman Street. Brother Hody, do we need to wait for Luo Te and his gang to leave the Fishman Island before launching an attack on Dragon Palace City? Hody Jones looked at Hammond and said, why? Hammond trembled as he thought of Luo Te's terrifying eyes. He was ordered to test Luo Te's attitude before, but was frightened by a look and fainted. Luo Te is so strong that it takes great courage to stand in front of him. Hody Jones reached out and grabbed a handful of half-green and half-red capsules from a box next to his seat. Jahahaha, as long as I have this, I am the strongest in the world. He threw one into his mouth. Gulp. As the capsule went down his throat, Hody Jones trembled. Jahahaha, the 5 emperors have to stand aside. ... Chapter 113. Tomb of Princess Otahime. Jahahaha, compatriots, go and organize all the captured human pirates, we are ready to attack Ryugu Castle. Hody Jones waved his hand, and the whole fish was very excited, as if the Fishman Island was in his pocket. Then the Fishman Island will be ours, and the cowardly Neptune is not worthy of being the king of the Fishman Island. ... Ryugu Castle, Banquet Hall. Lord Luo Te, I want. Shirahoshi's voice was a little hesitant, I want to see my mother's tomb. Hearing Shirahoshi's words, Neptune was stunned, tears flashed in his eyes. To say that he missed Princess Otahime for so many years, no one could compare to him. And he has been alone for so many years and has never remarried. Shirahoshi, father will accompany you. Shirahoshi shook his head and responded. Father, Lord Luo Te will accompany me. You are the king of the Fishman Island now. Don't leave Ryugu Castle easily. She looked at the 3 princes of Shark Star again. From their expressions, she could tell that the 3 brothers also wanted to accompany her to the sea forest to see their mother's tomb. She also said, the 3 brothers don't have to accompany me. You have to guard the safety of the Fishman Island. She then moved her eyes to Luo Te, with Lord Luo Te accompanying me, nothing will happen. Neptune looked at Shirahoshi and was very pleased that she was so considerate. Since Luo Te was with him, he believed that nothing would happen. Then he did not intend to stop him. Okay, then I will leave Shirahoshi to you, Lord Luo Te. Luo Te could only agree. Okay, then I will take Shirahoshi to the sea forest. Lord Luo Te, you will not take this opportunity to kidnap Shirahoshi, will you? Hearing Neptune's words, Luo Te almost fainted. Turning to Robin, he said, Robin, there is a historical text in the sea forest, do you want to go and see it? Robin's beautiful eyes lit up, yes. Ling and Nami naturally would not stay in this slightly depressing atmosphere in Ryugu City, and they all stood up, we want to go too. Luo Te smiled and said to Neptune and the 3 princes, don't worry, I won't kidnap Shirahoshi, I will send him back to you in a while. After saying that, he jumped down from Shirahoshi's hand, and then waved his hand to cover the 5 people with an electromagnetic barrier. Lord Luo Te, this. Shark Star took 4 pieces of coral, and when he remembered to give them to a few people, Luo Te had already walked out of the banquet hall with the 4 girls. Prince Shark Star, we don't need this kind of thing. Hearing Robin's voice, Shark Star stopped chasing. Neptune laughed. Shark Star, it seems that Lord Luo Te is more mysterious than we thought. Luo Te did not choose to go through the main gate, but brought the 4 girls to the edge of the bubble. Looking at this strange place, Shirahoshi was a little confused. Lord Luo Te, this doesn't seem to be the main gate. Luo Te laughed. It's okay, let's go. The 4 girls suddenly felt their bodies become lighter and gradually flew up. Luo Te, what is this? Nami looked at Luo Te in shock. He had never seen Luo Te use such a skill before. Linger and Robin also looked at Luo Te in confusion. Obviously, they didn't know either. My electromagnetic fruit has awakened. Not only can I control my own electromagnetic gravity and the electromagnetic force of objects, but now I can also control the electromagnetic force of the creatures I touch. Linger tilted his head and said in confusion, but you are not touching us now. Robin thought about it and said his guess. Did Luo Te change the electromagnetic force of the surrounding seawater to make us fly? Hearing this, Luo Te couldn't help but give Robin a thumbs up. Bingo. Robin, you guessed it right. Shirahoshi was confused. She didn't know what devil fruit was, nor what electromagnetic force was, but she knew that Luo Te was awesome. Lord Luo Te is awesome. Luo Te raised a light arc at the corner of his mouth. He was very satisfied with the effect, although he could not control it very freely. He led the 4 girls directly through the bubble, and the electromagnetic barrier formed a huge circular space around them. Although the boundary was invisible, not a drop of seawater could seep in. Lord Luo Te, Sigui. Shirahoshi looked up and down at this space, with a face full of curiosity. This was clearly beyond her cognition. Soon, everyone had passed through the second layer of bubbles and came to the sky above the Fishman Island. Flying towards the sea forest at high speed. It's so beautiful. The scattered coral reefs are lined up, shining with colorful light in the sun. Giant corals decorate this place into an intricate maze. The sunken ships scattered in it add a special sense of mystery to this place. Luo Te controlled the electromagnetic force and landed slowly. Wow, is this the sea forest? It looks really beautiful. Linger ran forward, looking back from time to time. Nami, Robin, come quickly. Nami took off her sandals and left them there. Linger, there are many sunken ships here, let's go treasure hunting, maybe there are still a lot of treasures on them. Okay. Luo Te shook his head helplessly, sighing that these 2 girls were really cute. He pointed to the sea forest, turned his head and said to Robin, Robin, the main text of history is in here. Robin tightened the straps of her backpack and nodded to Luo Te, then I'll go and take a look. Then she looked at Shirahoshi next to her. Luo Te, I don't object to you marrying Shirahoshi, but don't mess around now, he's still young. Luo Te spit out a mouthful of blood. What are you thinking about? Am I that kind of person? Robin laughed, said nothing more, and walked towards the depths of the sea forest. Shirahoshi stretched out his little finger and gently poked Luo Te's waist. Lord Luo Te, can you accompany me to see my mother? Okay, I'll accompany you. Shirahoshi was very happy to hear this, and directly picked up Luo Te and walked towards the grave of his mother in his memory. Lord Luo Te, this is my mother's grave. Hearing Shirahoshi's words, Luo Te looked at the huge grave in front of him. The whole grave was surrounded by golden corals, and there was a huge photo of Princess Otahime in front of the grave. He bowed deeply to the grave, paying tribute to the hero who has been committed to easing the relationship between humans and fishmen. Princess Otahime is undoubtedly great, and she and Fisher Tiger can both be called heroes. It's just that in this world, the ending of heroes seems to be a bit sad. After bowing, he stepped aside, leaving the remaining space for Shirahoshi and her mother and son. Shirahoshi sat quietly in front of the grave. Mom, I'm Shirahoshi, can you hear me? I'm grown up now. I remember you always said that girls should be strong and not cry easily. I don't cry so much now, and I'm not that crybaby anymore. I still remember when I was a child, you took me to the street to buy clothes. Because I secretly took a pearl from the stall, you scolded me angrily. I live a happy life. From childhood to adulthood, my father and 3 brothers have always been with me. They take me to eat delicious food every day and take me to play everywhere. She didn't tell her mother the truth that she had been locked up in the hard-shell tower for so many years. I guess she was afraid that her mother would worry. Mom, I brought my fiancé this time. Don't worry, he loves me very much, and I love him too. He said he would marry me when I was 16. Nani. Luo Te's eyes almost popped out. It turned out that he asked me to accompany him not because he was afraid, but to introduce himself to his mother. Chapter 114. Neptune will be executed. Dragon Palace City. Who are you? The guard of the palace looked at the fishman in front of him and shouted. Jahahaha, is Neptune here? The guard looked at the fishman in front of him seriously, and finally recognized him after a while. You are Hody Jones. What are you doing here? What do you want from King Neptune? Hody Jones's eyes condensed and he laughed. Jahahaha, I didn't expect that someone would recognize me. I'm going to take Neptune's life now. Nani. The guard couldn't believe his ears, and then shouted. Come on, enemy attack. Someone is invading Dragon Palace City. All the guards who heard the voice gathered around him at once. Hody, surrender quickly, this is Dragon Palace City, not your Fishman Street. Hody Jones looked at the densely packed guards in front of him, with a bit of contempt in his eyes. You guys want to stop me? I don't think you know how terrifying I am. Yatake same. As his hands kept waving in the surrounding seawater, drops of seawater shot towards the guards like arrows. For a moment, the guards fell down in groups like wheat blown by the wind. Jahahaha, don't think about stopping me, you are still far away. Hody Jones laughed and went to the palace. Hody Jones, what are you doing in the palace? Shark Star, Emperor Star and Flip Star heard the movement outside the palace and hurried over here, and met Hody Jones on the way. Hody was slightly stunned for a second when he saw the 3 princes appear. Oh, it turns out to be the 3 princes, long time no see. Shark Star looked behind Hody Jones and saw a group of bleeding guards lying behind him. Hody, what did you do to them? As soon as he finished speaking, he kicked the ground with his tail and approached Hody Jones at a high speed. Shark Star swung the weapon in his hand and hit Hody Jones' left cheek directly. Bang. Hody Jones fell to the ground with blood spurting from his mouth. Shark Star turned to Huang Xing and said, tie Hody up. Just when the 2 brothers of Huang Xing were ready to tie him up with handcuffs, Hody Jones threw a capsule into his mouth. In an instant, Hody Jones' eyes turned scarlet and he slowly stood up. Jahahaha, that's it, hit the water. Hody Jones waved his hand and shot a drop of water in his hand towards Shark Star. In just a moment, the drop of water was like a bullet that directly penetrated Shark Star's shoulder. Shark Star immediately fell to the ground, covering his shoulder. However, the drop of water continued to move forward and hit the dragon perched on the palace. Boom boom. The whole palace shook violently, and the dragon broke in the middle and fell to the ground. Looking at the water strike whose power had undergone a qualitative change, Hody clenched his fists, very satisfied. Then he stepped in front of Wangxing and the other person. Umi Takeo. With just one punch, Wangxing and Flipping Star were knocked away and vomited blood. Jahahaha, with such power, ruling the Fishman Island is just around the corner. As he said this, he walked into the palace. Hody, stop. The palace is in front. You can't go in without permission. Hody Jones looked at the short and fat catfish in a top hat in front of him, left minister. Do you think you can stop me? After Hody finished speaking, another voice came from inside, what about me? The right minister also came to the door at this time. Hody shook his head. Jahahaha, what can happen if there are 10 more? It's just killing a few more. Hit the water. A drop of water directly penetrated the abdomen of the left minister, and then passed through the chest of the right minister, and shot towards the palace gate behind him. With a bang, the palace gate broke into countless pieces and scattered on the ground. King Neptune, run, run. Hody wants to. See forest. Lord Luo Te is fine. Mom, you don't have to worry about me, he will definitely make me happy. I really want you to come to my wedding, woo woo woo. Luo Te looked at Shirahoshi's shaking shoulders, and naturally knew that he was crying now. Shirahoshi has been without a mother since she was 6 years old. She has not been with her mother on every birthday since she was 6 years old. She can't even be with her mother at her most important wedding. She just wants to share her happiness with her mother. She wants her mother to know that she is doing well and not to worry. Luo Te slowly walked to Shirahoshi. Looking at such a big one, he was a little embarrassed and didn't know how to comfort her. He could only slowly float to Shirahoshi's face and gently stroke her cheek. Shirahoshi, don't be sad, otherwise the princess will see it. He gently wiped away the tears from the corners of Shirahoshi's eyes. You have to be happy, so that she knows that you are happy. Otherwise, she will worry. Shirahoshi sniffed. I know, Master Luo Te, I will be strong, I just miss my mother. Luo Te couldn't help but feel a sore nose. How could he not want to return to Blue Star? Yeah, you know, it is said that every person who dies will turn into a star in the sky, guarding the people he cares about. Shirahoshi looked at Luo Te with surprise. Then mother, will she also turn into a star to look at me? Yes, so the princess may be looking at us now. Shirahoshi reached out and wiped his tears. Lord Luo Te, I read in a book that the stars are in the sky, but what is the sky? Hearing this, Luo Te remembered that the Fishman Island was 10,000 meters under the sea, and the sunlight was also transmitted by Eve, and there was no such thing as the sky and stars. He said gently, I will take you to see the stars in the future, okay, and take you to see the real forest and animals. Okay, fiancé. Shirahoshi tilted his head and looked at Luo Te. What? Is there something wrong, fiancé? Luo Te touched his nose. It felt weird to be called fiancé by such a lowly. But when he saw Shirahoshi's beautiful eyes, he was stunned for a while. It was too beautiful, so beautiful that it almost suffocated him. He could only accept the name of this lowly helplessly. Okay. Okay, call me whatever you want. Shirahoshi clapped her hands happily. Okay, fiancé. Then she picked up Luo Te and kissed him again. Her warm lips almost covered his entire upper body, soft, fragrant, and sweet. Fiancé, let's go back. Okay. Just then, a light curtain appeared on the side of the two. The figure of a fishman appeared on it. All the islanders of the Fishman tribe, can you hear me? I am the captain of the new Fishman pirate group in the Fishman Street, Hody Jones. Now I have something to tell the citizens of the Dragon Palace city of the Fishman Island. This country will be destroyed once, and then reborn, and I will be the new king. Then the picture turned, and 3 mermaids tied up appeared on it, with a square in the background. Hody Jones's face appeared on the picture again. Citizens of Dragon Palace City, now is the time to say goodbye to the old Dragon Palace Kingdom. Next, I will execute King Neptune and the 3 princes at Jilong Court Square. Chapter 115. Hody's Ambition. My fiancé, that's my father and 3 brothers. Shirahoshi looked at the picture on the screen and couldn't help covering her mouth. She couldn't believe that her father, who was invincible in her heart, was tied up at this moment. The key point was that the main culprit was the murderer of her mother Hody Jones. She still vaguely remembered that her mother asked her not to hate the enemy, but when she really saw the murderer of her mother, how could she not be angry? My fiancé, let's go and save my father and them. Luo Te looked at everything on the screen and was stunned. He remembered that if the time was calculated according to the original book, Hody Jones should have more than 3 years before launching a coup. How come it's so much earlier now? What puzzled him even more was that he was still on the Fishman Island. How dare Hody Jones do that? He actually dared to threaten his father-in-law, cough cough cough, then he could only destroy them. He nodded to Shirahoshi. Okay, let's go quickly. He stretched out his hand and put an electromagnetic barrier around the 2 people, and then the 2 figures slowly disappeared from the spot. At this time, the surroundings of Jilong Court Square were already crowded with citizens of the Dragon Palace Kingdom. They received Mrs. Charlie's divination, and before they had time to escape, they saw this scene. King, will King Neptune die, Your Majesty? Mrs. Charlie's divination said that the 5 emperors Luo Te would destroy the Fishman Island. Could it be that this Hody Jones was instigated by him? Will Hody destroy the Fishman Island? Will he kill us? Seeing the 3 royals tied up in the square, the citizens around them all looked worried. Looking at the expressions on the faces of the people around him, Hody Jones was very satisfied. Jahahaha, that's right. I just want to destroy the Fishman Island that has no self-esteem, and then build a strong the Fishman Island. He pointed the harpoon in his hand at Neptune's neck. So, executing this incompetent king here is of great significance, announcing that the great pirate era will be led by the Fishman. Then he changed the subject, and his expression became a little ferocious, but before that, I have to deal with the future enemies of our country. Do you know what this is? Hody Jones reached out and took out a piece of paper from his arms and showed it to the crowd around him. A letter from Celestial Dragons. Hearing Hody Jones' explanation, everyone was shocked. They knew that this was something that Princess Otahime had worked so hard to get, and it was also an agreement that made the Fishman Island peaceful. If you tear it up, you won't get it again. Neptune looked at Hody Jones angrily. Hody, what do you want to do? Jahahaha, what's the use of this thing? We are the noble fishmen. After saying that, he tore the whole letter to pieces. Hody, you, cough cough cough. Seeing this scene, Neptune coughed up blood several times in anger. Hody Jones glanced at Neptune. What do you mean by you old man? If it weren't for your stupidity and incompetence, how could the Fishman Island have fallen to this point? He said with his arms open, the Fishman Island actually needs human protection, it's ridiculous. As the new king, I will lead the fishmen to conquer the entire sea. But you won't be able to see it by then. After that, Hody Jones stopped paying attention to Neptune, but turned to a fishman subordinate beside him and said, move it out. The fishman servant nodded and moved out a box full of papers from the side. Brother Hody, it's all here. Hody Jones grabbed a handful of paper from it, showed it to the people around him, and asked, do you know what this is? What is this? It looks like a letter of responsibility or an agreement. This looks like. People looked at it carefully and found that it was not very familiar. But some sharp-eyed people already knew what it was. They didn't know what Hody Jones was going to do. More than half of the signatures of this country are here. Hody Jones shook his head with regret. It really makes me doubt my eyes. He stepped on a pile of signatures that fell to the ground. There are so many idiots who hope to coexist peacefully with humans. I feel sad for you. Humans are the most despicable species in the world. Don't expect them to coexist peacefully with fishmen. He looked around. The guys who signed here can be considered to be rebelling against my new country. In other words, this is a list of rebels. Then he grinned cruelly. Let me punish them one by one. First, Ginny Tame from Coral Hill. At this time, a fishman wearing suspenders took several steps back. No way. What are you doing? Hody Jones saw the panicked Ginny Tame at a glance. Just as he was about to go to solve it, two figures slowly emerged in the center of the square. The people around saw the two figures appearing together. What is that? 5 Emperors Luo Te and Princess Shirahoshi. Why is Princess Shirahoshi with Luo Te? Did Luo Te hold Princess Shirahoshi hostage? The relationship between them is unusual. It doesn't look like hostage, but like a couple. Hody Jones naturally saw Luo Te and Shirahoshi. His pupils shrank suddenly, and he felt an incomparable sense of oppression from that small figure. That feeling was much stronger than that of Brother Jinbei. He almost didn't dare to look Luo Te in the eye. No wonder Hammond said Luo Te was a monster. He glanced at the small box beside him. As long as there was murder medicine, he would definitely be stronger than Luo Te, and it would not be an exaggeration to say that he was the strongest person in the world. Thinking of this, he was no longer afraid. Father. Shirahoshi saw his father and 3 brothers tied to the high frame at a glance. She didn't care about the many members of the new Fishman pirate group surrounding her, and ran straight to Neptune. Shirahoshi, don't come over. Ahem. Neptune looked at Shirahoshi so recklessly, and was a little anxious. Hody Jones was confused at this time, watching Shirahoshi running towards Neptune, and was a little entangled for a while. He was actually very afraid of Shirahoshi, because Shirahoshi would summon Sea Kings. Although he didn't know what kind of ability it was definitely not something he could deal with. So he was now struggling on whether to kill Shirahoshi here. While he was struggling for a while, Shirahoshi had come to Neptune and the other 4. Shirahoshi, go quickly, Hody is crazy and will kill you. Neptune struggled frantically, but his whole body was tightly locked by iron chains, and it was in vain. The 3 princes including Shark Star glared at Hody Jones. Hody, Shirahoshi is still a child, we promised you to give you Dragon Palace City, you let Shirahoshi go. Wangxing and Fanch also looked gritting their teeth. They are not afraid of death, but they cannot bear to see their sister suffer any injustice. So as long as Hody Jones can let Shirahoshi go, they are willing to do anything. Hody Jones frowned. Tie up Shirahoshi for me. Chapter 116. Hody and his gang were killed instantly. I saw a double hammer shark holding a sledgehammer in his right hand and a bunch of handcuffs in his left hand, walking slowly towards Shirahoshi. Princess Shirahoshi, please cooperate with me and let me tie you up. Dose. Prince Shark Star looked at Tuz, who was slowly approaching Shirahoshi, turned his head and looked at Hody angrily. Why did you attack my sister? She didn't threaten you. Hody Jones spat. Do you think I'm stupid? Don't I know anything? Compared to killing you bunch of incompetent royals, what I want to get rid of most is Shirahoshi. Royal Star also struggled. Why? She is just an underage girl. Hody Jones raised his head and spoke slowly. Shirahoshi is the most difficult mermaid in this era. Naturally, she is the most threatening to me. Neptune's heart sank when he heard this. He had guessed that Hody knew the power that Shirahoshi possessed, which was also the power that their people had guarded for generations. But rather than letting Shirahoshi live in fear every day because of this power, he would rather Shirahoshi not have this power. Okay, Toss, hurry up and tie Shirahoshi up for me. Hody Jones didn't plan to argue with them anymore, and waved his hand to tell Toss to hurry up and do it. He was afraid that something unexpected would happen. At this moment, a female voice appeared. You are a group of rude children who yell in public. Everyone looked over and found that it was Shiarly, the chief fortune teller of the Fishman Island. Shiarly held his pipe and looked at Hody Jones calmly. Don't get too complacent, Hody Jones. Hody Jones looked up and looked at Shiarly. Oh, it's a long-lost face. What can I do for you, Shiarly? Shiarly took a puff of cigarette and said with a smile on his face, I just want to tell you a message. There is a person in my divination who will destroy the Fishman Island. What? Hody Jones was slightly stunned, then nodded. It is indeed possible to destroy the Fishman Island. Is the person you are divination for me? Neptune and others looked at Shiarly, a little surprised at her words. Shiarly shook her head and replied, sorry, it's not you. Impossible. No one on this island is stronger than me. Hody Jones shook his head frantically when he heard it. Then he looked at Luo Te. Could it be? Shiarly smiled and said, yes, that person is the five emperors Luo Te. Nani. Neptune and others heard Luo Te's name clearly. Some of them were reluctant to accept this divination, because after a short time with Luo Te, they no longer believed that Luo Te was the kind of person in the newspaper. But Mrs. Shiarly's divination has never been wrong. Impossible. I have been preparing for this plan 8 years ago. Hody Jones obviously couldn't accept that the person who destroyed the Fishman Island was not himself. Let me tell you, it was not a human who killed Princess Otahime more than 8 years ago, but me. Jahahaha. As long as the crime of killing your beloved princess is pushed to humans, it will arouse your hatred. Nani. Hody, why did you do this? Hody, you are simply crazy. The crowd couldn't believe this fact. When King Neptune heard Hody Jones' confession, his heart almost stopped. Why? Shark Star looked at his sister Shirahoshi, because he knew that Shirahoshi was the one who was most attached to his mother. He was afraid that Shirahoshi would collapse because of this. However, unlike what he imagined, Shirahoshi just lowered his head and did not cry as he imagined. Shirahoshi, don't be afraid, brother will help you deal with Hody. He tried to comfort him. Shirahoshi shook his head. No, I actually always knew that it was Lord Hody who killed my mother. What? Neptune and the other two were confused. Why didn't they tell them such an important thing? Shirahoshi explained. Before my mother died, she told me not to hate and not to tell others about this matter. Telling others will only deepen the hatred. Shirahoshi looked up at Neptune, so I have followed my mother's teachings for so many years and kept this secret in my heart. This time it was Hody Jones' turn to be confused. He didn't expect that he had killed Princess Otahime, but he still couldn't arouse Shirahoshi's hatred. His eyes condensed, hit the water. Suddenly, a drop of water faster than a bullet flew out of Hody Jones' right hand and flew straight towards Shirahoshi. The people around watched this scene, their hearts pounding. Seeing that the water drop was about to hit Shirahoshi, it slowly stopped in front of Shirahoshi's forehead. As if blocked by an invisible barrier. Hey, Hody, you think I don't exist, right? Luo Te pinched his wrist and walked slowly towards Hody Jones. A trace of fear flashed in Hody Jones' eyes. He knew that it was Luo Te who made him stop striking the water. He waved his hands to the fishmen around him in a panic. Little guys, come on, kill Luo Te. However, the fishmen hesitated for a moment, because they didn't want to die, and no one wanted to face the notorious five emperors. This scene made Hody Jones angry. He stretched out his hand and crushed the head of a human pirate next to him, and said sternly, hurry up and come. Otherwise, this is the end. Suddenly, the fishmen and human pirates made up their minds. Anyway, they were going to die anyway, so they might as well give it a try. So they all picked up their weapons and rushed towards Luo Te. Luo Te shook his head and murmured, what lucky scum, you can actually get a glimpse of the ceiling of this world. Then his eyes turned red, and Conqueror's hockey started. In an instant, red lightning spread out from Luo Te to the surroundings, splashing dust on the ground. The entire Jilong Court Square also shook. Just like autumn wind sweeping fallen leaves, all the fishmen and pirates fell to the ground. The cadres of the new fishmen pirate group also fell to the ground and trembled, without any fighting power. Hody Jones sat on the ground with the buttocks, his whole body in pain. What happened? What happened to them? Why did they all fall to the ground? In an instant, all the Hody gang in the entire square fell down. Nearly 70,000 people, just in an instant. Is this the strength of the five emperors with a bounty of 3 billion? It's terrible. The onlookers saw this scene that subverted their cognition, and their jaws dropped to the ground. Shiarly's eyes widened. What a capable five emperors. Hody Jones was shocked, and he muttered in his heart, how can we fight this? It's really like Hammond said that a look made us lose our fighting power. Luo Te didn't intend to let these cadres go. He stretched out his right hand towards the ground, and several stones slowly flew up and landed in his palm. Electromagnetic cannon. He flicked his finger at Hody Jones and others. Puff, puff, puff. All the main cadres of the new Fishman pirates, including Hody Jones, had a horrible bloody hole between their eyebrows. Chapter 117. Neptune's Decision. Neptune was so shocked when he saw Luo Te's move that he was speechless. He thought Luo Te would be very strong, definitely much stronger than Hody Jones, but he didn't expect Hody Jones to not even last a single encounter. This was completely beyond his cognition. This kind of power was simply beyond the dimension. If he had to describe it in one word, that is God. Luo Te didn't care about what others thought. After all, he had seen this kind of look many times. An electromagnetic body disappeared from the spot, and then appeared in front of Neptune and others. He waved his hand and cut the chains on Neptune and others. Sorry, I'm late. After saying that, he threw a few magic beans into the mouths of several people. In just a few breaths, the injuries on Neptune and the other four had healed. There was no sign of injury at all. Prince Shark Star couldn't help but secretly marvel at Luo Te's move. Shirahoshi picked up Luo Te and gave her a big kiss. You are so awesome, my fiancé. What? When the people around heard Princess Shirahoshi calling Luo Te her fiancé, they felt that their worldview was about to be shattered. That was a mermaid princess whose beauty was even surpassed by the world's most beautiful queen, Boa Hancock. They were also dreaming. How did she suddenly become Luo Te's fiancé? And Princess Shirahoshi kissed Luo Te. Hearing Shirahoshi's name, Luo Te couldn't hold it anymore and broke down on the spot. Shirahoshi, don't call me like that in front of outsiders. Shirahoshi tilted his head, looking puzzled. Why? Neptune was already in a state of confusion. He wanted to find a crack in the ground to crawl into. He hadn't even acknowledged the marriage yet, so how could Shirahoshi stab him out? If Shirahoshi can marry Luo Te in the future, it will be fine. If the two of them are not together, then where is the face of his royal family? Luo Te looked at Shirahoshi's innocent and lovely appearance and didn't know how to answer for a while. After thinking for a while, he said, I'm shy to call me like this in front of so many people. Neptune and others couldn't help rolling their eyes. As a 5 emperor, would he still be shy? Hey, Luo Te. As the voice sounded, everyone saw a white cloud flying towards the square at a high speed. The white cloud slowly stopped beside Shirahoshi, and 3 beauties slowly walked down from it. Naturally, it was Ling and the other 2. Ling looked at the fishmen and pirates lying on the ground on the field and said, we just came here when we sensed it, but it seems that we are still a step late. Luo Te said to Prince Shark Star, Prince, these people just fainted, and I'll leave it to you 3. Shark Star looked at the fishmen all over the field and felt a little depressed. He said, everyone, go back, it's okay, we will keep a close watch on these rebellious fishmen. People left one after another after hearing this. Prince Shark Star began to command the kingdom's army to handcuff the fishmen on the field and take them back to the prison. Luo Te said to Neptune and others, I will send you back to Dragon Palace City. There are many things for you to deal with there. Ah. Neptune sighed and replied, okay, then I'll trouble Lord Luo Te. Did Hody do all this? Neptune looked at the kingdom guards lying along the way, his anger overflowing. Ahem, Lord Kingdom, are you okay? Didn't you get attacked by Hody? The right minister leaned against the pillar, holding his chest. Shirahoshi ran forward quickly, Uncle Right Minister, it's okay. Hody Jones has been defeated by the unmarried Lord Luo Te. Realizing that she had let the cat out of the bag, she quickly changed her words. The right minister nodded slowly, that's good, that's good. As long as you are all okay. I am still worried that the princess will encounter an accident, then we will not have the face to see the princess. Uncle Right Minister, don't say anything, have a good rest, the imperial doctor is here. Wangxing and Flipping Star were commanding the remaining kingdom guards to start treatment. Neptune said to Luo Te, Lord Luo Te, if it weren't for you this time, we would have been killed by Hody. Please come this way, let me thank you very much. Neptune brought Luo Te and the other 4 to the palace hall. Luo Te activated the electromagnetic force to drain the seawater in the entire palace. Neptune was shocked by Luo Te's ability again. Who is Joy Boy? Neptune was stunned when he heard this. There was no politeness. Was it so direct? He held back the words he was about to thank Luo Te. Seeing that Neptune did not respond, Robin continued to ask, who is he apologizing to? I read the historical text of the sea forest. Who is he apologizing to? Can you understand that? Snap. Nami snapped her fingers, and a chair made of island clouds appeared behind everyone. Everyone sat down slowly. Robin nodded. I am a scholar from Ohara, and I can read ancient texts. If you don't want to say it, it doesn't matter. She looked at Neptune's stunned expression, knowing that this was a secret about the Fishman Island, and she didn't want Neptune to tell it. Neptune hesitated for a long time and said, no. If it were you, I would tell you everything I know. He looked up at Robin. Joey Boy is a real person who disappeared for 100 years. Robin thought for a while and asked, that must be a person from at least 800 years ago, right? Neptune lowered his head. Yes, that article was written to the mermaid princess on the island at that time. It was an apology for not keeping the promise between him and the Fishman Island. Robin raised his eyebrows. Promise. Nami also condensed her eyes when she heard it. Apology. Neptune continued, although the details have not been passed down, one day someone will appear to replace Joy Boy. This is the legend that has been circulated among our royal family. Therefore, we believe it firmly, and we have been protecting Noah from generation to generation. When the promise is fulfilled, this Noah's Ark will set sail again. And Joy Boy is the one who can drive Noah. Neptune said, casting his eyes on Luo Te, thinking of Luo Te's invincible strength is even stronger than the Joy Boy in the records. I think Luo Te should be the Joy Boy of this generation. Robin said at this time, the mermaid princess is the ancient weapon Poseidon, right? Neptune could only nod. Yes, this generation of Poseidon is Shirahoshi, she has the ability to drive sea kings. Mrs. Shiarly predicted that Lord Luo Te will destroy the Fishman Island. I think it should not be destruction, but bringing the Fishman Island to a wider world. Shirahoshi pouted his lips. That's right, my fiancé will not destroy the Fishman Island. Neptune's mouth twitched slightly, looking at this daughter who has already turned outward before getting married, with a bitter smile on his face. So, Lord Luo Te, I want to hang your flag on the Fishman Island, and the Fishman Island will be your island in the future. What? Chapter 118. The Fishman Island changes hands. Luo Te could see Neptune's seriousness in his eyes. He was curious about why Neptune made such a decision. You know, the Fishman Island is Whitebeard's territory. The man who was known as the strongest man in the world and the pirate closest to the throne of Pirate King. YF2F. He didn't use the strongest umbrella, but came to seek his protection. Isn't it too hasty? However, Neptune also knew Luo Te's doubts. He explained. There is one thing that Lord Luo Te may not know. 800 years ago, the mermaid high priest had predicted that 800 years later, someone would appear to destroy the Fishman Island. Luo Te was a little surprised when he heard this. He felt that this was no longer a prophecy, but a god level 1, much more magical than the fortune teller on Blue Star in his previous life. He had reason to suspect that this was not a simple prophecy. It was very likely that it was a trap set by Joy Boy and his group 800 years ago. The tribes involved in the trap were passed down from generation to generation in the name of protection, until the appearance of the fateful rubber fruit, and the gears of fate began to turn. It was supposed to be Luffy's fate, but now everything has changed because of his time travel. Neptune looked at Luo Te. The prophecy says that the person who destroyed the Fishman Island is the one who will lead the Fishman Island out of the sea of suffering. Luo Te was silent. He felt that the divination content in the crystal ball should have been stored in advance by the mermaid high priest 800 years ago. The purpose is to let the king of this generation lead the Fishman Island to submit to the person of the prophecy. He couldn't help but look up at the sky. It seems that because of his time travel, the direction of many things has changed. But you have people who are here. After all, it is Whitebeard's territory. You planted my flag on the Fishman Island, which should be considered as betrayal. How are you going to explain it to Whitebeard? Neptune smiled and shook his head. Lord Luo Te may not know that the agreement between us and the Whitebeard pirates is that we only asked Whitebeard for a flag at that time to deter those who have bad intentions. Nami said thoughtfully. So what you mean is that the Fishman Island is not Whitebeard's territory at all, but they just lent you their flag. Neptune could only helplessly admit, yes, that's it, because for the 4 emperors, they are almost all in the New World, and the Fishman Island can't bring them much benefit. Naturally, no one will come to manage the Fishman Island. Luo Te understood that the Fishman Island might not even be considered as a subsidiary of Whitebeard, otherwise it would not lead to the riot of Hody Jones. Aren't you afraid of Whitebeard's anger if you replace their flag now? In fact, Luo Te is very important to the Fishman Island. After all, it is an important origin for the 4 seas to unite. Neptune shook his head. No, I'll call them now. He took out a Den Den Mushi and dialed it. The call was soon connected, and a slightly younger voice came from the other end of the phone. Hello. This is Moby Dick, who are you looking for? Hearing that the call was connected, Neptune took a deep breath, obviously nervous. After all, the other party was the strongest 4 emperors Whitebeard. He organized his words and said, this is the Fishman Island, I'm Neptune. The person on the phone was obviously stunned for a while. Who are you looking for? Neptune reached out and wiped the sweat from his forehead, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. I want to change the flag we encountered. Dad, the Fishman Island's phone. Bring it here. Hello, Mashimoshi, this is Whitebeard, what can I do for you? Neptune repeated what he just said. Only a hearty laugh came from the Den Den Mushi. Gulala, change it, whatever you want, the flag is not important, I would have forgotten it if you hadn't said it. Neptune heard this and exhaled deeply to the side. He seemed to feel the pressure of the 4 emperors coming from the Den Den Mushi. After a while, the Den Den Mushi voice sounded again. The Fishman Island, right. No matter whose flag you change to, as long as you need it, our Whitebeard pirates will help you. Hearing the voice on the other end of the phone, Luo Te couldn't help but feel a sense of respect for the 4 emperors he hadn't met yet. I remember that in the original work, after the Summit War, the Fishman Island planted the flag of Big Mom, and the price was that all the desserts produced by the Fishman Island every year must be presented to Big Mom. In return, the dessert factory had to work overtime, and the dessert chefs of the Fishman Island who worked there were also miserable. I think the Whitebeard pirates have too many territories, so most of them have a free-range policy, but they will also go out as long as there is a demand. And now Whitebeard's demeanor is in line with his personality. As the phone hung up, Neptune's heart was relieved. Robin stroked his chin, turned his head and said to Luo Te, "This Whitebeard is so easy to talk to, it's really a bit unexpected." Ling said at this time, "Hey, Luo Te, I remember Ace as your disciple, he seems to be the captain of the second team of the Whitebeard pirates now." Yes. Luo Te raised his head and a series of memories came to his heart, and then he sighed slowly. Will the plot develop like the original? Neptune was shocked. What? Master Luo Te, are you the master of Whitebeard's second team captain? Luo Te said without hiding. Yes, I have 2 disciples, one of whom is Ace. Nami and Robin looked at Luo Te with unbelievable eyes. They had never heard of Luo Te having any disciples. And that was the Golden Emperor, Ace, who was said to be the second strongest fighter in the Whitebeard pirates after Whitebeard. Unexpectedly, he was Luo Te's disciple. If this news spread, it would cause a storm in the whole sea. Robin thought for a while and suggested, Luo Te, it seems that we must visit Whitebeard after we go to New World. Luo Te nodded and said, yes. He must visit Whitebeard, first to see Ace, and second to see the troubled hero Blackbeard. Naval Headquarters, Marineford. What? Are you sure you saw it clearly? Buddha Sengoku listened to the report sent back by his men from Sabayati Archipelago. His voice sounded a little unbelievable. Yes, I saw Luo Te's ship sinking to the bottom of the sea with my own eyes. Sengoku put down the Den Den Mushi in his hand, and the big stone in his heart was finally put down. In the past 6 months, because Luo Te has been making trouble frequently, his white hair has increased a lot. Every day he looks forward to receiving Luo Te's report to New World. This time it finally came true, and his heart, which had been irregular due to constant worry, finally recovered its sinus rhythm. He will never be scolded by the 5 elders because of Luo Te again. No matter how crazy Luo Te is in New World, it is no longer his business. Garp slapped his thigh and ridiculed Sengoku endlessly. Ha 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 ha, Sengoku, a Luo Te scares you to do this. I remember you were full of energy before. Shut up, Garp, weren't you East Blue the protagonists of that big event? Did you manage East Blue well? Garp reached out and handed a senbei to Sengoku. Don't worry, Sengoku, Luo Te has already gone to New World. Sengoku glared at Garp, snatched the bag of senbei in his hand, and poured it all into his mouth. Ah, my senbei. Staff Officer Suru on the side looked at the 2 people playing and shook his head helplessly. Chapter 119. The plan from 800 years ago. In the afternoon, Neptune prepared an unprecedented grand banquet for Luo Te to thank Luo Te for saving the Fishman Island. Many stars from the Fishman Island were also invited to perform at the banquet. Of course, the most important thing is that Neptune announced at the banquet that the Fishman Island became the territory of Luo Te pirates. He thought many people would object, but unexpectedly, this decision was unanimously approved. This also saved him the trouble of explaining. This broken crystal ball is not accurate at all, what do I need you for? In the Fishman Island cafe, Xiarli took a crystal ball and prepared to smash it. What Luo Te would destroy the Fishman Island, it's all fake. Luo Te not only did not destroy the Fishman Island, but also was a hero who saved the Fishman Island. She seriously suspected that there was something wrong with the crystal ball. Fortunately, after this incident, Lord Luo Te let everyone know that he was not the one who was going to destroy the Fishman Island. Otherwise, she would be a big sinner who slandered Luo Te's innocence. Now the Fishman Island is the territory of Lord Luo Te. I wonder if Luo Te will blame her. She looked at the heavy crystal ball in her hand. There had never been any mistakes before. I don't know why such a big mistake happened this time. Although it was handed down more than 800 years ago, she didn't plan to keep it with her. Just when Xiarli was about to smash the crystal ball on the ground, a voice sounded behind her. Mrs. Xiarli, don't. Xiarli turned around and saw Luo Te standing behind her. Lord Luo. Luo Te, you. Luo Te pointed at the crystal ball in Xiarli's hand. Can I see that crystal ball? Looking at Xiarli's horrified look, Luo Te knew that it was his sudden appearance that scared the fortune teller silly. He shook his head. Did he look so scary? He explained helplessly. I just want to borrow your crystal ball to see, and I don't have any other ideas. Xiarli handed the crystal ball in his hand to Luo Te, a little curious, wondering what Luo Te was going to do with it. The crystal ball felt cold in his hand. He tried to communicate with it through brain waves, but the crystal ball did not respond. Xiarli seemed to have guessed what Luo Te wanted to do. She said, Lord Luo Te, we fortune tellers are born with an ability to predict people's next move. Luo Te's eyes narrowed. It should be observation haki. He remembered that there was also a child in Sky Island who was born with observation haki. Unexpectedly, the fortune tellers of the Fishman Island were also born with observation haki. Everyone wanted to go to Rome, but some people were born in Rome. Shiarli continued, we injected that kind of power into the crystal ball to see the content of the divination. Luo Te also injected his own observation color into the crystal ball after hearing this. Soon he saw a picture in the crystal ball. However, the picture was different from what Shiarli saw. He saw two mermaids and a man inside. The blue shark mermaid asked, are you sure we can save the world by doing this? The man said, of course, Yimu would never have thought that we would plan for 800 years. Suddenly, the blue mermaid turned his head and looked at Luo Te. It seems that our plan may change. The picture was interrupted at this point. Luo Te made a bold guess that the man should be Joy Boy. The blue mermaid was the fortune teller of the Fishman Island in that era, and the pink mermaid next to him should be the mermaid princess at that time. He couldn't help but sweat coldly. It turned out that Joy Boy and his team had really started planning for today 800 years ago. Shiarli saw Luo Te's big reaction and thought she saw the picture she saw. She quickly explained, Lord Luo Te, this crystal ball should be broken, don't believe the things inside. Luo Te was a little curious. He knew that Shiarli should not have seen such a picture. Could it be that Shiarli saw the picture of herself standing on the Fishman Island in a sea of fire? Mrs. Shiarli, can you tell me what you saw from it? Shiarli hesitated for a moment, not knowing whether he should tell Luo Te what he saw. Luo Te said at this time, it's okay, no matter what you saw, I won't blame you. After hearing this, Shiarli slowly told Luo Te what he saw. After listening to Shiarli's description, Luo Te nodded. It turned out that it was different from the scene in the original book where Luffy destroyed the Fishman Island. That scene seemed to be the scene after he moved the Fishman Island to Sky Island. He comforted. Oh, so that's the case, this picture is real. What? Shiarli looked unbelievable. Could it be that Luo Te, you will? If the picture he saw was real, wouldn't it mean that Luo Te would destroy the Fishman Island? Luo Te smiled and shook his head. Ha ha ha, of course I won't destroy the Fishman Island. Shiarli was confused. What is that? The picture you saw is also real, but that should be the picture after the Fishman Island moved to my country. After hearing Luo Te's explanation, Shiarli was still a little confused. Your country? Luo Te nodded. Yes, my country. But the Fishman Island is also there. Shiarli was confused. If according to Luo Te's explanation, doesn't it mean that Luo Te will move the entire island of the Fishman Island to his country? That is simply impossible. Luo Te also knew exactly what Shiarli was thinking, and he didn't plan to explain much more. Instead, he left a sentence. As long as you know that I will not destroy the Fishman Island, let alone do anything to hurt the Fishman Island. Then he disappeared in the cafe. Shiarli looked at the place where Luo Te disappeared, and then turned back to look at the crystal ball in his hand, stunned. I want to sleep with my fiancé tonight. Shirahoshi held Luo Te in his palm and acted like a spoiled child. Luo Te, who was just thinking about the scene in the crystal ball, almost spat out blood when he heard Shirahoshi's words. Neptune, who was standing by, was stunned. Why did the cabbage he had worked so hard to grow think about being pushed by pigs all day? He refused sternly. No. If Shirahoshi and Luo Te were allowed to sleep, they would definitely be eaten. Although Nami and Ling had accepted this big little sister, why was this little sister so fierce? Luo Te said with a bit of laughter. No. Shirahoshi, this is absolutely not possible. Shirahoshi pouted his lips. Why? I heard that other couples sleep together. Luo Te held his forehead. He didn't know where Shirahoshi got this information from. He was almost shocked. He could only explain. We are not husband and wife yet, we can't sleep together. Neptune nodded quickly and agreed. Yes. We can't sleep together, at least not now. Shirahoshi asked a little frustrated. But they said that there are many couples who sleep together before they get married. No, absolutely not. If you dare to do this, I will not recognize you as my daughter. Shirahoshi looked at Luo Te, then at his father, and could only nod. Then I can sleep together after I get married to Luo Te, right? Neptune was almost mad to death. Why did his daughter think about sleeping with Luo Te all day long? Did she know what that meant? Chapter 120. Shirahoshi's Kiss. Lord Luo Te, can't you really stay with Shirahoshi for a little longer? At the mouth of the Fishman Island, Shirahoshi lay on the side of the ship Pokong, number 1, and looked at Luo Te with tears in his eyes. On the shore, Neptune and the three princes, as well as many citizens of the Fishman Island, were seeing Luo Te off. Luo Te nodded. Shirahoshi, when I have a territory in New World, I will come to pick you up, okay? Nami also said at this time. Yes, Sister Shirahoshi, with our strength, we won't let you wait for a long time. Ling said. Yes, you have to believe Luo Te. Then let's make a pinky promise. Shirahoshi stretched out her small, little finger. Luo Te and the other four also stretched out their little fingers and touched it. Okay, Shirahoshi, King Neptune, the three princes, and everyone, were leaving. Luo Te was about to control the boat to fly out. Wait. Luo Te turned around and looked at Shirahoshi. What's wrong? Shirahoshi. Shirahoshi closed her eyes and leaned close to Luo Te, her curved eyelashes trembling slightly, and her skin was white and tender in the sun. Even with such a big face, the pores on her face could not be seen at such a close distance. Her red lips were slightly pursed, and she had a crystal luster. The whole face was like a perfect carving of pink jade. What's wrong? Luo Te was a little distracted for a while. I want a kiss. Shirahoshi's voice was soft, like the pleasant sound of a harp left by an angel in the world. Luo Te scratched his head. Don't test the old cadre like this. Aren't you my fiancé? A kiss is always okay. Luo Te turned his head and found that Ling and the other two had turned their faces to one side. He looked at Neptune and the other four and found that they also turned their heads to one side, obviously acquiescing. Luo Te smacked his lips lightly and kissed Shirahoshi on the cheek. Although Neptune turned his head to the side, his peripheral vision was fixed on Luo Te. Seeing that Luo Te only kissed Shirahoshi on the face, he breathed a sigh of relief. Just when he was about to be relieved, he heard Shirahoshi say, "No. I want to kiss." Shirahoshi pouted his lips as he spoke. Nani? Neptune was stunned. He suspected that he had heard it wrong. This time he could only close his eyes tightly. Even the three Ling who heard this trembled slightly. Luo Te took a deep breath, closed his eyes and kissed Shirahoshi's lower lip lightly. As the warm touch came from his lips, Shirahoshi's face flushed. At this time, the sound of broken glass was heard on the shore. Damn it, my goddess. No, I'm going on a hunger strike for a month to protest. Why can Lord Luo Te win the favor of Princess Shirahoshi? At this time, Neptune's back teeth were almost broken. He knew that the two of them had to kiss. The cabbage that had been raised for more than 10 years was still taken away by someone. Shirahoshi, who had never been kissed before, felt this strange feeling. Although the fish lips were not suitable for human mouths, his heart was filled with sweet happiness. In fact, the reason why Shirahoshi wanted to do this was that he saw too many women around Luo Te and was afraid that Luo Te would not want him, so he thought of this trick. It only took a few seconds for Luo Te to separate. Pinching his lips, a sweet taste came from them, but a sense of guilt rose in an instant. But in his heart, he really accepted Shirahoshi, and he would definitely marry Shirahoshi home. He looked at Shirahoshi with tenderness in his eyes. Okay Shirahoshi, I'm leaving. Wait for me obediently at the Fishman Island. Shirahoshi blushed and said, Luo Te waved his hand, and a huge electromagnetic barrier enveloped the entire ship, slowly rising into the air. Shirahoshi was soaking in the water and waving at Luo Te and his group in the hospital area. Luo Te, I'll wait for you on the Fishman Island. Sky Breaker number 1. Luo Te, if you dare to let down Shirahoshi's sister, I will never forgive you. Ling clenched her fist and shook it in front of Luo Te's eyes. Nami also echoed on the side. That's right, if you dare to bully Shirahoshi's sister, you're done. Robin said at this time, if you dare, I don't mind being sisters with you. As he said that, a pair of hands grew out from the inside of Luo Te's thighs. Luo Te hurriedly clamped his legs together, without any doubt that Robin would do this. He raised his hands. I know. Is this the new world? It looks no different from the first half of the Grand Line. Ling stood at the bow, and the sea in front of him was still turbulent. Nami reminded. The weather in New World is more changeable than the first half of the Grand Line, so you can't let your guard down. As soon as the words fell, a giant lightning struck Ling directly. Suddenly, Ling turned into a ball of fire and floated to Luo Te, hugging Luo Te's arm tightly. Luo Te, you scared me to death. Luo Te stroked her head gently, and he also looked up at the sky in a strange way. Isn't it sunny? Where did the lightning come from? Nami frowned slightly, stretched out her hand to sense the flow of air. Leave this area quickly, there will be strong convective weather in 2 minutes, and thunderstorms will occur. As she said, Nami created a cloud at the bottom of the boat, carrying the boat and rushing towards the distance at a high speed. Just after leaving that area, Ling looked back and saw that the sky at that position had become extremely dark, and countless lightning fell on the sea. A moment of fear. If those lightning skins were on my body, I would be covered with bruises. Nami couldn't help but roll her eyes and said, You are a flame, do you still need to be afraid of lightning? Ling looked as if he had suddenly realized something. Yes, I am a flame, I am not afraid of lightning at all. At this time, Robin said, Since we have come to the new world, let's contact Clo and the others first. Luo Te then remembered that Clo came to the new world a month earlier than them, and he didn't know how they were doing in the new world. But with Clo and the others' strength and intelligence, no one except the 4 emperors themselves could pose a threat to them. He reached out and took out a Den Mushi from his arms and dialed it. Bulu Bulu. Bulu Bulu. Biahia. Hello. Luo Te, are you in the new world? Clo's voice came from the other end of the Den Mushi. Robin couldn't help but complain when he heard it. Oh, you sound pretty energetic. I thought you were thrown into the sea to feed the fish. Crocodile's voice came from the Den Mushi. Robin, you are still as sinister as before, but thanks to you, we are living well and have a large piece of territory. Frankie's voice came immediately. Luo Te, we are also very super this week. We just gained an island. Listening to the voice from the Den Mushi, Luo Te raised a curve at the corner of his mouth. Things seemed to be going more smoothly than he imagined. We have arrived at the new world, but we don't know where it is. I'll follow the life card to find you. Enel couldn't help it either. Luo Te, you have to come. Crocodile won't let me do this or that. I'm almost bored. Hearing this, Luo Te couldn't help but smile. He knew Enel's character, but fortunately Crocodile was there. At this time, Chloe's voice came. Luo Te, we may have to go to Wangwo next week. Robin reached out and put the hair behind his ear, and said, Wangwo. Isn't that the territory of 4 Emperors' Big Mom? Chloe replied. Yes, next week is the tea party of the Big Mom Pirates. Chapter 121. Encounter with the Ship King. What is a tea party? Luo Te. Nami had never heard of this thing, and even Robin didn't know. Luo Te explained to them what a tea party is. Robin thought for a while and said, Luo Te is obviously a hangman banquet. It is very likely that she wants us to become her affiliated pirate group because she sees our strength. Luo Te naturally knew that this was an open conspiracy, and it would be very bad to go or not. He took out a white card from the system space and spread it in his palm. He saw that the card was moving in one direction. Let's go. After saying that, he controlled the ship to move in the direction of the card. Hey, the weather in this new world is really weird. The rainstorm can't be called a rainstorm. It's really a bunch of water droplets. The ice that fell from the hail is even bigger than the ship. Ling was complaining about the weather in the new world all the way. If Nami hadn't been able to predict the weather in advance, she might have been exhausted. Nami was also a little powerless to complain about the weather in this new world. It was sunny in the last second, and the air pressure changed in the next second. Robin sat under the parasol on the deck with a book. I thought I was going to die in New World. Hearing this, Luo Te smiled and said, in fact, the weather in New World is similar to that in Paradise, which is related to the surrounding islands. The weather will get better when you arrive at a mild island. Luo Te, look, there is a pirate ship in front. Ling voice came from the bow. Luo Te slowly walked to the bow. Nami and Robin also stood up from under the parasol and walked to the bow. A huge pirate ship appeared in the bow direction. The bow of the pirate ship was a huge mammoth shape, and the pirate flag also printed a mammoth. Luo Te raised his eyebrows. Isn't this Jack, who is known as the King of Ships? Luo Te, who has read the original work, naturally knows Jack. He is the big boss of Kaido of the Beast's Pirates, one of the 3 major disasters, drought. A person with the ability of zone elephant fruit ancient species mammoth form, a fishman with a bounty of 1 billion berries. His fate in the previous life can be said to be quite tortuous. In order to rescue Don Quixote, who was being escorted by Marine, Doflamingo encountered Sengoku, Fujitora and Suru's staff, and was defeated, which also gave him the title of Ship King. He came to Zou and prepared to kill the Elephant Master, but unexpectedly, the Elephant Master, under the order of Momonosuke, taught him a lesson. Finally, he was defeated by a Nuerishi and Cat Viper at the Onigashima Fire Festival. After receiving treatment, he was finally defeated by a Nuerishi again. That is Jack the Drow, one of the 3 disasters of the Beast pirate ship. Hearing Luo Te's words, the women were all surprised. No wonder their observation Haki could feel that the huge figure on the bow of the opposite ship was not ordinary powerful. It was stronger than the pirates they met in the Paradise before. It turned out that it was one of the 3 disasters of the 4 Emperors Kaido. Robin said. That is the enemy, right? Luo Te nodded. Yes, it is an enemy. At this time on Jack's ship, a subordinate was looking at Luo Te's ship with a telescope. Captain Jack, we found Luo Te's ship ahead, are you going to turn back? Jack stared at the subordinate. Why, bastard, is it because Luo Te is on the other side? Who do you think I am? Pull the ship over to me. Ling saw the opposite ship coming towards her quickly. And instantly turned into a flame. I'm not angry, you think I'm a water kid, right? Then he flew towards Jack's mammoth at a high speed. The Beast's pirates crew saw the flames and showed horror. It's Fire Fist Ling. Quick, shoot her down. Don't let her get on the ship. Just when Ling was still more than 10 meters away from the mammoth, a giant fist made of flames gathered in the air. Fire Fist. The giant flaming fist immediately hit the mammoth. In just a moment, the whole ship was cut in half by the Fire Fist. The densely packed people fell into the sea like dumplings, and Jack also fell into the sea without noticing. Luo Te was stunned. What was going on? In his perception, Ling was a little stronger than Jack, but he was not so strong that he would be killed in 1 second. He couldn't help but feel sad for Jack. Originally, other strengths should have been able to fight Ling back and forth. Unexpectedly, Ling directly punched the whole ship into the seabed. It turned out that Jack, whether in the original book or in this world, could not change his tragic fate. Ling snorted. That's it. Then he flew back to Luo Te and hugged Luo Te's arm. Luo Te, praise me quickly. Luo Te shook his head helplessly. Okay, Ling is the best. Hearing this, Ling head almost looked up to the sky, like a proud white swan. Nami and Robin only recovered from the shock at this time. They thought they would have a short battle with the opponent. Unexpectedly, Ling solved it perfectly with one punch. Robin couldn't help but complain. This drought is too weak, it was killed in seconds without making any moves. Luo Te took out the life card, looked at the direction, and continued to control the boat forward. Gradually moving away from the sea where he had just met Jack. At this time, there were many floating wooden boards scattered at the place where the Jack Mammoth sank. Beast's Pirates crew members kept emerging from the water and swimming to the wooden boards. Quick, Master Jack is still at the bottom of the sea. Go down and save Master Jack. Master Jack is a fishman and can breathe in the water. No matter what, we have to rescue Master Jack quickly, we still have to rush to attend the tea party of the ant. Many crew members looked at the sky-breaking number 1 that was gradually going away, and they all felt a sense of fear in their hearts. You know, the one who just made a move was just a woman from the Luo Te pirates, and they killed their ship in an instant. And Master Jack hasn't made a move yet. Is that Luo Te, the 5 emperors? Legend has it that he defeated the 3 admirals. This is too scary. That fire fist alone is so strong that it's enough to kill him. I wonder who is stronger, Luo Te or Lord Kaido. Shut up. Of course Lord Kaido is stronger. Following the direction indicated by the life card, Luo Te and his party soon arrived in front of a huge island. We should be here. This is the territory that Klo and the others mentioned. Luo Te confirmed the life card in his hand again. Ling and others looked at the beautiful island in front of them, and their faces showed satisfaction. The island was like a gem lost in the sea, shining with brilliant light. The island was covered with dense vegetation, and the lush trees and colorful flowers turned the entire island into a perfect watercolor painting. Occasionally, a few birds flew through the woods, leaving behind a string of crisp songs. Luo Te looked at the island and nodded. From what Cloro and his companions said, there are many islands in this sea area that are already their territory. This should be just one of them. Then he activated the Super Heart Net, and quickly sensed where Cloro and his companions were. Then he controlled the boat to slowly fly towards the center of the island. At this time, in a building on the island, Enel's eyes condensed. Luo Te has landed. Chapter 122. Luo Te's gang gathers again. The Sky Breaker number 1 slowly came to the sky above the island, and Ling and others had already seen Klo and others who had been waiting in the square. Luo Te sent an electromagnetic wave to Luo and Beppo who were still training in the cabin, and soon they came out of the cabin. Looking at Luo who was covered in blood, Luo Te couldn't help but be curious, so he asked, Luo, what did you do in there? Beppo saw Luo like this and ran to Luo's side, looking at Luo with concern. Luo looked up at Luo Te and said in a nonchalant tone, I'm just practicing, it's okay. Luo Te felt it slightly and could clearly feel that Luo was approaching his limit at this time. He guessed that Luo might be like this every day in the training room, training his body to the limit, then recovering, and so on. Of course, the results of doing so are also very significant. His current haki has been introduced, and his physical fitness has also reached a new level. Although it is still at the bottom of Luo Te's pirate group, it has the strength of Naval Headquarters Rear Admiral, and is even infinitely close to the strength of Vice Admiral. Luo Te also admired the man wearing the Madara hat, a man who would do anything for revenge. He said to Luo, we are now in the new world. Luo was shocked when he heard this. What, this is already the new world. He quickly threw a fairy bean into his mouth, and the wounds on his body recovered quickly. Beppo was also slightly relieved when he saw this. They lived together since childhood, Luo was the best to him, and he was also the first to rush to the front for everything. So he couldn't bear to see Luo suffer the most. Well, but before going to Dressrosa, we have an important thing to do. Hearing Luo Te's words, Luo nodded, without asking what to do. As the Sky Breaker number 1 slowly landed in the square, everyone got off the boat one by one. Frankie touched his nose, looked at Luo Te and his group and said, I haven't seen you for more than a month, and you have become more energetic. Crocodile smiled. He knew that Luo Te would definitely go to the ants' tea party, so that they could fight again. A bolt of lightning landed beside Crocodile. Yeah ha 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 ha, Luo Te you are finally here, are we going to go to war with Big Mom? Luo Te looked at Crocodile and Enel, and couldn't help shaking his head. These two people are really warmongers. We will definitely go to the tea party, and whether to go to war depends on Big Mom's opinion. Luo Te replied. Luo looked at the group of people in front of him, and his heart was full of turmoil. In his observation haki, the group of people in front of him were so strong that any one of them was much stronger than him. Based on the reports in the newspaper, he speculated that the Luo Te pirate group must be very strong. But when he really saw it, he knew what kind of oppression it was. For a while, he felt that his training intensity had to be increased. I guess this is the death surgeon, Trafalgar Law. Crow pointed at Luo and said. Luo nodded. My name is Trafalgar Law, also known as Trafalgar Vadier D. Luo. I am an op fruit user. Frankie stretched out his arm and handed a bottle of iced cola to Luo. Come on, Luo, drink a bottle of cola, don't be so depressed, be happy. Although Frankie usually has a carefree personality, he is very thoughtful. He has seen that Luo is worried. Luo took the cola, looked up at Frankie, and said, thank you. Chloe said at this time, let's go back first. After that, he led the way in front and went to the huge single-family building in the center. In the huge conference hall, Luo Te sat on the main seat. He looked at the people around the conference table and felt a little emotional for a moment. After going through so much, they finally came to the new world. Thank you for your hard work along the way. Chloe and others shook their heads slightly, obviously enjoying it. Luo Te continued. This is the new world. The danger level here is not comparable to the paradise. Enel didn't care. Yeah, ha ha ha, I have been in the new world for so long, and I haven't seen anything worth fearing. Except for Enel, everyone else's face was full of excitement. Luo Te shook his head. Don't take it lightly, and don't underestimate any enemy. If you are not careful, you may capsize. Even I have to be careful here. He continued. But there are still many advantages in the new world, such as more resources, no annoying marines, etc. Then Chloe also reported their achievements in the new world for more than a month. You mean, you have some unpleasantness with the Big Mom pirates? After listening to Kuro's report, Luo Te knew that Perospero came to give him an invitation letter, and he almost had a fight with Kuro and the others. Enel was interested after hearing this, and said a little arrogantly, yeah, ha 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 ha, the 4 emperors are just like this, I scared them away with just one move. Crocodile looked at Enel with some contempt. Lightning exhibitionist, they obviously ran away after seeing my powerful strength. Enel stood up and looked down at Crocodile. What did you say? Stinky sand crocodile. Luo Te looked at the two of them speechlessly, and was really curious why these two people would fight whenever they were together. Seeing that they were about to fight at the meeting, he could only stop them. Okay, you two. HMPH. HMPH. After hearing Luo Te's words, the two sat down. Just after sitting down, the two turned their heads to one side again. Luo Te looked at Kuro and asked, is Big Mom's tea party only 5 days away? Kuro hooked his fingers and counted, and responded, it should be only 4 days. Now many famous people in the new world have already gone to Wangguo. He paused and continued, it is said that the earlier you go, the more you can show your importance to the tea party, and that way you can gain deeper friendship from Big Mom's pirate group. Luo Te pursed his lips. He didn't want to gain any friendship from Big Mom. He just asked, how long will it take for us to go to Wangguo? Kuro thought for a while. It took nearly 5 days before. If you and Nami are here, it should only take 2 days. Luo Te nodded. Then let's rest for 2 days before setting off to Wangguo. Everyone is a little tired and hardworking after so many days. Hearing that they can rest, Zoro and Frankie finally relaxed their tense bodies. When they first came to New World, because there was no navigator, the weather in New World had made them miserable. Because they are the 5 Emperors pirate group, not only do they have to pay attention to the ever-changing weather, but they also have to pay attention to challenges and harassment from other pirates. The first half-month after arriving in New World was completely used to adapt to the rhythm of New World. After more than half a month, they slowly shifted their focus to building a territory. Fortunately, Luo Te has come, and they have a backbone. Finally, I can rest for 2 days. Chapter 123. Linger in my arms. The night was as cool as water, and from time to time there were a few calls of wild animals. Are you thinking about Big Mom's tea party? Robin's intellectual voice came from behind him. Luo Te did not turn around, but replied softly, no, I just feel a little sad that we have come to the new world so soon. Robin slowly walked behind Luo Te and gently hugged Luo Te. You need to take a proper rest. I don't want you to be so tired. Luo Te held Robin's hand and rubbed it gently. I have to say that Robin is really a very qualified candidate for a wife, smart and considerate. Some things can't be done if you don't want to do them. Once you start, there will be no turning back. Thinking about it, I have been in this world for almost 3 years. As time goes by, my mentality has also changed a little. At the beginning, the identity of a time traveler gradually became integrated into this world. But what makes him happy is that he has a group of companions around him, and there are so many women who love him. Robin put his face on Luo Te's back. I know your dream, but it can't be achieved overnight. You should rest when you need to. Luo Te turned around and hugged Robin's delicate body in his arms, resting his chin on her head. As long as you are here, I won't be tired. Listening to Luo Te's pounding heartbeat, Robin couldn't help but hug him tighter. Only at this time did she feel that Luo Te was real. Most of the time, Luo Te gave her the feeling of a high god, experiencing life in the lower world. Always gave her a sense of mystery, as if everything was in her plan. So young but has the strength to suppress the entire Grand Line. Robin, who had just taken a bath, exuded a faint fragrance and felt a little hot for a while. Luo Te, you hit me. Feeling the little Luo Te against her lower abdomen, Robin's cheeks flushed a little. Luo Te chuckled, there's a saying in my hometown that a night of spring is worth 1,000 gold coins, so what are you waiting for? Let's take the next step. As he spoke, Luo Te picked up Robin by the waist and walked towards his room. Soon, Luo Te carried Robin to his huge and luxurious room. Just as Luo Te was preparing for the next move, Robin in his arms turned into petals and disappeared. Luo Te raised his eyebrows slightly. Is he going to use this trick again? He is very familiar with this trick because he often does this with Robin. However, unlike before, Robin directly picked up a black eye mask from the table beside the bed. Slowly walked to Luo Te and put it on Luo Te. Robin bent down and whispered in Luo Te's ear, no peeking, and no using observation haki. Hearing this, Luo Te raised his eyebrows. What new tricks are you playing? Come on. Who is he Luo Te? In his previous life, he had watched countless movies and had seen all kinds of flowers. Did Robin see it in a book? Come on, ravage me hard. After a while, Luo Te felt a tender finger poking the back of his hand. Just when Luo Te was about to take off the blindfold, a hand covered his hand. Although he didn't say anything, Luo Te knew that she didn't want him to take off the blindfold. If he doesn't want to take it off, then don't take it off. This way there is a different kind of stimulation. Luo Te hugged the person in front of him. For a moment he was stunned. The delicate body in his arms also froze. Luo Te raised an arc at the corner of his mouth, and then pressed the person in his arms under him. 10,000 words omitted here. The next day. The delicate body arched in Luo Te's arms until she found a comfortable position and then calmed down. Looking at the delicate body in his arms, the faint light hit her skin, revealing a white jade texture. He gently stroked the red hair on her forehead, and the girl's curved eyelashes trembled slightly. Changbi leaned into Luo Te's arms again. Luo Te looked at this pretty face and couldn't help pinching the girl's nose. The girl's eyelids moved slightly and slowly opened. Woo, good morning, Luo Te. Luo Te, it's not morning now, the sun is already shining on your butt. Ling-er. The person in Luo Te's arms was Ling-er. Ling-er looked at Luo Te, stunned for a few seconds, and then quickly lowered her head. Thinking of what happened last night, she couldn't help blushing. But her face was full of happy smiles. She finally gave herself to Luo Te. Ever since Luo Te rescued her from the pirates, he had a secret crush on Luo Te. As time went by, this feeling became stronger. Later, Nami joined, and she knew very well that Nami also liked Luo Te, so she felt a sense of crisis. Since Nami was still young, she didn't care too much. In her heart, no matter how it was her turn, she would be the first. But when she met Robin, Luo Te actually ate Robin directly. She was already full of a sense of crisis. And Hancock's sudden appearance made her panic. Even Shirahoshi, who was 3 years younger than her, had a ed up to her. How could she sit still? However, the woman's modesty prevented her from stripping naked and standing in front of Luo Te. So she prepared the plan last night with Robin. But now it seems that the plan was very successful, and she also witnessed Luo Te's incomparable strength as described by Robin. She now felt that not only her back and waist were sore, but even about to break. In fact, when Luo Te hugged Ling-er last night, he already knew that it was not Robin. In addition, the faint fragrance coming from the girl made him know in an instant that the person he was hugging was Ling-er. In this world, he and Ling-er have been together for the longest time, and he also knows Ling-er's love for him. He also wanted to eat this red cake. Although Ling-er is only a few months younger than him. But Ling-er always looks quirky, not like an 18-year-old at all, but like a little girl. So he didn't find a good opportunity. But last night, this cake was actually delivered directly to his mouth, so what else can he say? He ate it directly. The three women all have different personalities. Robin is mature and intellectual, Hancock is passionate, and Ling-er is pure as a lotus. He held Ling-er tightly in his arms, sniffing the faint body fragrance coming from her. Luo Te, you, another 10,000 words are omitted here. Wan Guo, Cake Island. Mom, Katakuri, how long will the tea party last? I can't wait. In the giant hall made of chocolate, Big Mom took a piece of cake from the main seat and threw it into her mouth and asked. There was a tall figure under the hall, wearing a white scarf like a flower, blocking his mouth. It was Big Mom's second son Katakuri. He replied at this time, Mom, don't worry, there are still 4 days before the tea party. Big Mom asked at this time, did Luo Te accept the invitation? Before this tea party, she specifically asked Paramecia to invite Luo Te to attend the tea party. And the biggest target this time is also Luo Te. Katakuri said hesitantly. Well, Kuro accepted it. Mom, it's good that he accepted it. But before Big Mom finished speaking, Katakuri said again, it's just that Paramecia and Enel had a little conflict. What the hell? Chapter 124. To Toto Land. Woo. I can't do it anymore. Luo Te, I beg for mercy. Ling now felt that her whole body was about to fall apart, and her back and waist were completely defeated by Luo Te's attack. She finally felt the unparalleled fighting power of Luo Te mentioned by Sister Robin at this moment, and now she had to beg for mercy. Luo Te lay on his side, hugged Ling in his arms, and gently stroked her back. Stinky Luo Te, you don't know how to be gentle with women, this is my first time. Ling said, punching Luo Te's chest with her little fist. Luo Te looked at the blushing little girl and chuckled, I don't know who shouted, faster, last night. Hearing this, Ling could only bury her head deeper, and her voice came out buzzing, HMPH. I won't pay attention to you. The crisp lowly voice was a bit charming. If it weren't for Ling first time, Luo Te would have planned to go into battle again. In the next 2 days, Luo Te finally visited the initial territory of their pirate group in New World. There are 7 islands of all sizes. Except for 1 or 2 islands with people living on them, most of them are deserted islands with no one. After a circle, Luo Te also knew the reason. The climate of this sea area is not suitable for ordinary people to live in. Some islands have continuous rain all year round, some islands have never stopped thunderstorms, some islands are full of poisonous insects Lion Majesty, and some islands have volcanoes that have almost never stopped erupting. This is also completely within Luo Te's expectations. After all, in a place like New World, the better islands will almost be divided up by the 4 emperors first. In the New World where the weak are preyed on by the strong, if a country wants to survive in the New World safely, it must either be strong enough or join the 4 emperors. Although Luo Te is called the 5 emperors, it is almost on par with the original 4 emperors. But in the cognition of most people, Luo Te has not yet reached the same strength as the original 4 emperors. This is not a paradise, there are many hidden dragons and crouching tigers. They think highly of themselves and hardly take Luo Te seriously. Even the former 4 emperors are not afraid of them. So when Kuro and his party came to New World to gather their territory, it was not as smooth as expected. However, Luo Te was very satisfied with this, because he felt that it was much easier to manage and develop an uninhabited desert island than a country with people.
It would take a long time for a country to completely obey and submit to the leadership of Luo Te pirates.
And these scattered islands have been moved and spliced by Luo Te and Nami. 5 huge landmasses have been formed. A large sea area was deliberately left in the middle to leave room for Sky Island to move in the future. At that time, the entire Sha Kingdom will be 5 giant islands guarding the central continent. Of course, Luo Te also used electromagnetic force to change the magnetic field of those islands that are not suitable for living. I believe that those islands with extreme weather will gradually become milder in a short time. As for infrastructure, he can't do it at all. Only when he takes time to return to paradise and move Sha Kingdom here, will he have manpower to build it. On the Skybreaker, all the Luo Te pirates except Hancock were on the deck. Luo Te swept his eyes over one by one, and every partner's face was filled with excitement. They knew that the next step was to go to the territory of the 4 emperors' Big Mom, Wangguo. Friends, get ready, we're heading to Wangguo. As Nami created an island cloud at the bottom of the ship, the entire Skybreaker slowly rose into the air and headed towards Wangguo. Nami's ability is still convenient. You can fly wherever you want at any time. It would be great if you came to New World with us. Frankie felt a little emotional as he felt the ultimate speed of the Skybreaker. Thinking of the hardships they had suffered when they first arrived in New World. Many times, if the Skybreaker could be lifted into the air, it would definitely save a lot of trouble. Enel nodded. Indeed, if the ship could fly, it would indeed make many operations much more convenient. Klo shook his head and said, we can't have such an idea. After all, many ships of the strong men on the sea cannot fly. Only we are special. Enel pursed his lips. Klo, we are just expressing our feelings like this. Don't be so serious. He just didn't like Klo's character. He always looked old-fashioned. But he could only complain in his heart. You know, Klo is a famous antique on the ship. Luo Te raised his eyebrows when he heard Frankie's words. He remembered that in the original book, Enel had a Proverbs, which was powered by Enel's lightning-driven fan blades and could fly in the sky. Then he checked the 5 ships in the system space, and after sensing it, he knew that Enel could also operate to lift Skybreakers 1 to 5 into the air. It seems that they have to leave all the ships in the territory, because they may not go out to sea with the whole group every time. After all, there are not many scenes in this world that can make them go out with the whole group. After 2 days of flying, the Skybreaker is now slowly approaching the ants' territory. The surrounding scenery has also turned into a brown ocean, and bubbles are constantly coming out. Luo Te, look at the color of the sea water below, it has turned brown. It's so magical. Why is there a faint smell of cola in the air? Ling lay on the side of the ship, her nose slightly raised. She is quite professional when it comes to eating. In her words, she can smell the ingredients and cooking methods of any delicious food thousands of meters away. Nami also looked down after hearing this. Oh, it's true, is it possible that the seawater here is not seawater? Ling tilted his head and looked at Nami, both of them were delighted, and said in unison, is it Coke? Frankie was also excited. Coke. There is actually Coke below, so much. I don't know when I will finish drinking it. Chloe said at this time. I have done research before. Big Mom's world, Toto Land, is based on the Cake Island where Big Mom lives, and more than 30 islands are scattered around. Each island is ruled by a minister. Chloe came to the side of the ship and pointed to the islands that were vaguely visible below, and continued. Each island has its own unique style. There are islands made of candy, islands made of biscuits, islands made of chocolate, and so on. Almost every island is a dessert, and the seawater around each island is a beverage related to the island. Hearing Chloe's explanation, Frankie drooled uncontrollably, and his voice became trembling, as this, like this. He turned his gaze to Nami. Nami-chan, hurry up, let's go down. Babo came to the deck without knowing when, and drooled in agreement, yes, let's go down. Frankie and Babo then danced on the boat with their shoulders linked. Coke, Coke, we love Coke the most. Bang, bang. As Nami retracted her fist, Frankie and Babo fell to the ground with a big bump on their heads. Luo Te looked at this scene helplessly and said, let's go to Cake Island to see what the tea party is like. After all, we have accepted the invitation. Chapter 125, Tea Party. Wan Guo. Some people who came early to attend the tea party of the aunties have arrived at the Cake Island. At this time, the whole Cake City has been decorated very luxuriously, and the shining dessert lights can be seen everywhere. The whole Cake Island is like a fairy tale world, with colorful desserts combined into various parts of the building. Houses made of cakes of various sizes and shapes are scattered on the island, forming a huge cake. Flowers, plants and trees with human faces are dancing around, celebrating the successful development of the tea party. At this time, you can still see all kinds of races living on the island, and even some rare races can be seen here. Walking along the avenue is the giant square where the tea party is held. A brown carriage slowly stopped at the entrance of the venue. As the soldier pulled open the curtain, a man with a fluffy black beard on his chin walked down. The people around saw this person and showed horror. Who is that? Shipping King Umit. Who is the Shipping King? You don't even know the Shipping King. He is the one who controls the lifeline of New World's maritime logistics. He is involved in 70% of New World. What? Such an awesome person also comes to the tea party. With the entrance of the Shipping King, the atmosphere of the tea party gradually reached a climax. After a while, another red carriage stopped at the entrance of the venue. The one who came down at this time was a woman with a good figure. She was wearing a white cloak, a white crochet hat, and a long skirt that made her temperament quite noble. That's Queen of the Pleasure District, Stussy. Who is Stussy? But she looks really beautiful. I wonder if she is married. Why don't you know anything? That's the top entertainment star in New World. Together with the Golden Emperor Tesoro, she controls the lifeline of New World. World's entertainment. FK. Awesome. He's a big star. I know this guy. His name is Dorag Pikro. He's known as the King of Assassins. He runs the most complicated assassin organization in the world and likes to bury his opponents alive. Is he so awesome? No wonder his smile is so creepy. You have to be careful. He has a bad temper. Rumor has it that he once killed his employer. What? Isn't he in this line of work? How could he kill his employer? It was the employer who said his smile was creepy. Do Field. I didn't expect him to come to the tea party. He's the richest man outside of the Golden City. Yeah. It is said that he started his career by lending money at high interest rates. Quote. He has the ability to lend money at high interest rates. Are you saying that Field has a big consortium behind him? Of course not. But if you don't pay back the money you borrowed, he can get you back even if you escape to paradise. Kiberson, the king of warehousing, is here as expected. He always came to every tea party of Auntie before, and he didn't miss it this time. Who is this bird? Why are you all looking at him like this? He is the most mysterious person in the world, the president of the World Economic News Agency, Morgans. What? Is he the leader of the shocking news department? Yes, as long as he publishes news, he will definitely add the word shocking, and their news agency is also the place with the most information in the entire Grand Line. It is said that he is also the editor-in-chief of the Shock Department newspaper. As Morgan sat down, the 6 emperors who controlled the underground dark world all arrived. The people around couldn't help but secretly swallow their saliva as they looked at the 6 ruthless people sitting there. After all, if you offend any of them, it will be useless even if you escape to the ends of the earth. These are the big figures that they don't have the opportunity to see on weekdays. They didn't expect that they all came to attend Big Mom's tea party. A sense of understanding rose in their hearts. The 4 emperors' face is really extraordinary. And some people didn't come just for the tea party. Instead, they came to find these 6 emperors who controlled the underground resources of the New World. They wanted to take this opportunity to discuss some deals with these emperors. Big Mom was very happy on the main seat. The number of people who came to the tea party this time increased compared to the last time. It seems that her influence is really getting bigger and bigger. She turned her head and asked the big tongue beside her. Mom, Paramecia, are Luo Te and his gang here? He is the protagonist of this tea party. Paramecia turned his tongue and said, Mom, I haven't seen Luo Te and his gang so far. Hearing this, Big Mom's face, which was originally full of smiles, suddenly became extremely gloomy. What? Luo Te is so bold that he didn't come to my tea party. Seeing that Big Mom was about to get angry, Paramecia quickly said, Mom, don't worry, they should be far away. They must be on their way now. Hearing Parameicia's words, Big Mom's expression finally eased. Mom, I hope you don't keep me waiting for too long. She was still extremely angry in her heart. In New World, who was not respectful to her, who received the invitation letter and didn't come to the venue early. Many people even fought to grab an invitation to the tea party. And this Luo Te, just a newcomer, really thinks of himself as one of the 5 emperors. If this Luo Te really dares to disobey her, she doesn't mind letting Napoleon teach him a lesson. Seeing that Big Mom was about to get angry again, Paramecia quickly handed her a cake. Mom, this is a mousse cake specially made for you by the famous dessert master Pierre Hermé. Big Mom stuffed the cake into her mouth, and her eyes lit up immediately. Mom, oh ah. After being excited for a while, she asked, by the way, didn't Kaido say that he would send someone to the tea party? Why haven't I seen their people? Paramecia also looked puzzled, and obviously he didn't know why the Beast's pirates hadn't arrived yet. The previous 2 tea parties were on time, and I don't know why they were late this time. Maybe they found the wrong place. Big Mom obviously couldn't accept this explanation, and waved her hand to smash the cake next to her. Damn Kaido, if I knew he dared to tease me, I would never let him go. But she only vented for a while and smiled again. Seeing that the time was up, Katakuri could only say in his ear, Mom, the time is up. Big Mom frowned slightly and could only announce, I declare the tea party officially open. Oh, the atmosphere in the venue reached a climax. The Shipping King walked slowly to Big Mom and handed a box to Big Mom. This is the best chocolate beans from North Blue that I prepared for you. Big Mom took the gift and was very happy. Mom, thank you, Umit. Gibson also came to Big Mom with a huge box. This is the special durian tree I picked from South Blue. Stussy, this is the special ruby I won from Tesoro. Now I present it to you. All the people who came to the tea party presented their treasures to Big Mom. Big Mom was naturally very happy to receive the gift, and her mood, which had just been ruined by Luo Te and Beast's pirates, also improved. She waved her hand and said arrogantly, Mom, come on, bring all the cakes up. At this moment, a voice sounded over the venue. Oh, don't you know I'm late? ...